All right, so welcome again. It's wonderful to have so many people here to discuss such an important opportunity in our county's history. It's nice to see people in the boardroom again to share our ideas. And I'll give you kind of an idea of how this meeting's going to go. We're going to have county staff explain a little bit about the American Rescue Plan, how it works, what the restrictions are, how the money can be spent, and what are some potential ideas from staff perspective on how to spend that money. Then department heads will have an opportunity to talk about some of the deficiencies in some of our county departments and where there are needs. And after that time, we'll probably take a break, and then we'll open up the floor to the community, and everyone can speak on what their ideas are. The board, for our part, is here to learn. We're here to listen and get an idea about where the community is and what the priorities are going to be. So that's sort of the purpose of this meeting today. We'll be meeting again on August 3rd at 1:30 right here in the board chambers, and that will be a discussion about giving actual direction on how the monies should be allocated. And then August 13th, we'll meet again to have a final decision on that. So we're making it a multi-step process to allow as much public engagement, to allow as much insight into what the community's needs are, what your ideas are. There are only 5 board members on the Board of Supervisors, and so this is not our money. This is the public's money, and the public needs to decide how that money should be allocated. And so we're very grateful to have so many people here engaged and to communicate with, and looking forward to hearing from each and every one of you. I know that all of us have received many, many emails. I know I've read them all, and everyone I'm sure has read all of the emails they were received. And so very grateful for that. So with that, I'll go ahead and look to our CAO, Tracy Riggs, and she will start us off.
All right, good afternoon. We look forward to this conversation. And the staff who will lead us in a presentation, it will be a short presentation, but what it is meant to do is give an overview of what the guidance allows and does not allow for both our board and for those watching and participating today. And then once we get done with that, what we'd like to do is then turn it over to department heads so you can hear your department heads, and then everyone else right after that. And so what I'd like to do is turn this over to Liz and Jason from our office to lead you through the presentation.
Okay, good afternoon. Liz Peterson with the County Administrator's Office. Jason Terry also with the County Administrator's Office. No need to rehash again. We're here to talk about the American Rescue Plan, just kind of to cover some of the highlights. But before we do that, we always like to start with the county's mission statement, and hopefully this provides some context as your board considers options for spending this money. Hopefully the county's mission statement is kind of what drives your decision making. So we commit to providing exceptional public service that creates a healthy and safe community, exercises natural, cultural, and financial resource stewardship, promotes economic prosperity, and enhances quality of life. So a little bit of the background of American Rescue Plan. So Tuolumne County's allocation is based on the population. We have received, on May 19th, we received the first of 2 allotments, a little under $5.3 million. It is anticipated that May of next year we will receive our second allotment for a total of $10,581,713. I want your board to be aware that any interest that's earned from this funding that maybe isn't spent right away, the interest is also available for use. And then just as a reminder, your board did, during the recommended budget process, did allocate some of these funds to go toward some code enforcement staff and a few other items like that. So $231,760 has already been allocated. So a little bit about the timeline for the American Rescue Plan. So the period of coverage is from March 3rd, 2021 through December 31st, 2024. All of the funds that we receive or that we plan to spend have to be obligated by December 31st of 2024. But the funds must be spent or expended, which means all work has to be performed, completed, and paid for by December 31st, 2026. And a little bit about the general or overall eligible expenses for this American Rescue Plan Act funding. First and foremost, of course, it is for covering COVID-19 related public health and negative economic impacts. Secondly, it can be used to provide governmental services by offsetting local government revenue losses. And we're going to get into more of what that means in a little bit later in the presentation. Thirdly, it can provide premium pay to essential workers of up to $13 per hour on top of their current wages, up to a maximum of $25,000 per worker. And then lastly, it can be used to expand broadband, water, and sewer infrastructure. And just to let your board know and the public, these four eligible expenses come straight out of the guidance from the American Rescue Plan Act. A few things that this funding cannot be used for. It cannot be used to pay any sort of pension liability funds. So that means our PERS liability or other pension liability funds. It cannot be used to pay down internal or external debt. It cannot be used to build up our contingencies, our reserves, or any other rainy day funds. It cannot be used as a non-federal match, primarily for grants. And it cannot be used for premium pay for any individual who teleworked from a residence. So as we staff were putting this presentation together for your board and the public, we were thinking about some other considerations that we wanted to highlight for your board and as you're hearing to make these decisions. And we thought about it would be important probably to remind primarily the public about what your board's adopted budget policies are. Because hopefully those policies are what's going to drive the decision making as well as your overall mission statement that we discussed earlier. So I just want to highlight these budget policies. There are other policies that we did not include that are irrelevant to the American Rescue Plan Act, but I just wanted to read these through so that, again, just to kind of give some context as you're considering making some decisions. So first, your board's adopted budget policy is that one-time revenues should not be used for annual operating budgets. Secondly, that you should dedicate unobligated or available beginning fund balances to establish annual contingencies, pay off county debts, increase reserves, fund future liabilities, and I crossed all those off, or we crossed all those off, just because those are your board's policies, but those are ineligible expenses with American Rescue Act funds. So the last one would be to fund capital equipment, plant, and infrastructure needs. Thirdly, your board's policy prioritizes funding for public safety and for road maintenance services. Fourth, the policy that your board has adopted should strive to provide funding to adequately maintain existing plant and infrastructure. Fifth, you continue an active long-term capital improvement program. And lastly, match specific state and federal funding reductions with commensurate cuts in specific program expenses. And what that means is if you get any kind of funding, state or federal, this is federal funding as we know, and create a program with it, that once the funding goes away, the program goes away. That's the policy. Okay.
All right, so now we're going to dig into the lost revenue piece a little bit. As we saw the different four, I'll call them pillars of what eligible expenses are under the American Rescue Plan. I don't think we probably don't need to define what COVID response looks like or premium pay or broadband, sewer, and infrastructure. But we do want to just provide a quick overview on both the methodology of calculating the lost revenue and then what it can be used for. So as you can see here, there's a nice little chart. We've adapted from NACO guidance, mostly to make it fit on the screen here, but at a high level, the calculation of lost revenue is supposed to be generated from local sources. That The act does allow for state government revenues, so revenues from the state, to be included in the calculation, but as these are federal funds, federal revenues are not afforded the same treatment. And that includes if they're being passed through the state. So we do have several grants that, while we do receive them from the state, they are federal in origin, and therefore we cannot use them as part of this calculation. So this goes a little bit more into the methodology of how we can calculate this lost revenue. The fiscal year 18-19 is the base year for comparison, and the reason behind that is the year prior to COVID. And so that gives us the best look of kind of what trajectory we were on before everything shut down, before everything was affected. And then the methodology that is put out by the Department of Treasury is if our growth rate was less than 4.1% based on those time periods listed, then we could utilize a 4.1% growth rate to compare our actuals against and see what our lost revenue is. And if it is above that, if we were doing better in those years prior, that we would be able to use the higher annual growth rate as we calculate those losses. So we are afforded the opportunity to look at this for each of the next few years to calculate the revenue loss. You can see 2020 through 2023 there. And then I apologize, the graphic there is a little bit small on the bottom, but it kind of goes over the same. You're looking at the pre-COVID revenue, you're multiplying it by the growth rate adjustment, and taking out your actual revenues to see what the revenue loss actually is. So once you've calculated that, these are the types of items that can be used, that you can use these funds for. And really it's governmental services, and it provides the greatest flexibility, the general concept being that if everything hadn't shut down, these funds would have been available for general use, and so they can go towards these governmental services. The items listed in the guidance specifically call out infrastructure, including roads, IT type expenses, including cybersecurity, hardware and software, our healthcare services, environmental expenses, school and educational services, as well as provisions of law enforcement, fire, and other public safety. And once again, even with the lost revenue, we cannot use this towards any pension liabilities, we can't use it for debt services, and can't use it for any kind of rainy day type funding. So utilizing the calculators placed out by NACO and by the Government Finance Officers Association, staff have determined that we'll be able to use the entire allocation of a little over $10.5 million as lost revenue. And really what that means is your board has flexibility across all four of those pillars to determine how to allocate these funds.
Okay, so as Jason mentioned, your board has a lot of flexibility, and so there's a lot of options. We kind of, to try to develop a starting point, tried to group things into three basic buckets: COVID-19 response, county government, and then the community. Up here is a lot of different options that we have heard in the community, and your board has heard, that we have seen other jurisdictions are maybe doing. So I'm just going to highlight a few of those. So for the COVID-19 response, it's not only, of course, cleaning supplies, PPE, the cost of the COVID testing sites, but it's also technology upgrades that we might be in need of still, or digital files and records management system, so that folks who don't want to come in person to county government can access all kinds of records and files. Moving to the county government side, you're going to hear just shortly from your department heads. There's a lot of plant and infrastructure needs, going back to your board's budget policies, as well as a lot of other equipment needs that they might have, some building remodel options, and then, of course, there's the premium pay, the grant-funded employees that could be an option, and then other personnel actions. And then looking to the community. We know that there's obviously broad interest, from the community in trying to use these funds in a spread out kind of way, so that everybody kind of hopefully gets to see some of the funding. So some options that your board could consider with the CARES Act funding, we implemented a business grant program, so you could look at another business grant program. There is stipulation now in the ARP funding that wasn't in the CARES Act, that this funding could actually go toward lost revenue for businesses, and that wasn't an option before with CARES Act. So, or nonprofit grant assistance, also an economic stimulus program of some kind. I know some other jurisdictions, Stanislaus County and others, have done some creative things with some economic stimulus type actions. And then water infrastructure projects, that is one of the buckets specifically listed, as well as broadband, that this money can be used for. And then, of course, we know your board's goals and the community's goals of homelessness, and so you could use some funding for response. Of course, these are just ideas, but we wanted your board to think maybe about kind of allocating funding into these three buckets, perhaps, if that's something that you wanted to consider. And so, now, a word from your department heads. We wanted to give the department heads their opportunity to discuss their specific needs. We know that you've heard from some community, and now obviously you're going to hear from the community and the public. But your department heads also have some needs and some requests, and so I believe some are going to get up and speak, and then we'll get to our recommendation at the end.
Okay, so if that's all from you, Liz, then so we'll go ahead and invite, I guess we have some department heads here. If we could line up on the wall and then give everyone a chance to speak. That way the public can kind of get an idea of what some of the needs are before we, so that'll kind of inform our discussion as we go through. Okay, Sheriff's is first in line. Big surprise there. He's quick. Good afternoon.
We're here in the mornings. But good afternoon, Chairman, Board. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here today and open this up to the public so we can hear what the public has to say as well. So, it's pretty loud, sorry. So as a sheriff, I'm elected to provide public safety to our community. My office provides law enforcement services throughout the community, but I want to talk a little bit about what law enforcement services look like within our community. So over the past few weeks, we've had 2 shootings. We've had the vicious rape of 2 young children. We've had 4 deputies injured while trying to arrest mentally ill and drug-addicted individuals. Typically, when we try to make an arrest, they fight to get away. People are now turning on us and attacking us, biting us. We had a very brazen, broad-day burglary. Once we got there, the gentleman ran away and actually tried to force his way into another woman's home. She had to shoot at him to make him leave. That's included in the prior shooting that I spoke about, just to be clear. We had a burglar entering a woman's home during the day while she slept. We had an attempted murder, stabbing. It's unbelievable that individual actually lived. We had a 12-year-old wielding a butcher knife. We were called to that home. We do all of these types of things with 2 deputies per shift. All of these types of calls that I just listed are at least a 2 unit, maybe more units, need to respond. So what happens when we respond to these types of crimes? It leaves us with 2 units, or maybe 1 unit, or maybe no units throughout the rest of the county. When we talk about our staffing levels, right now I staff 1 out of every 5 shifts where you can put in South County, Groveland, PML area. If you're above Twain Harte, we hardly ever staff a shift up in that area. We go if the calls come in, but we do not staff or we do not make any type of proactive patrols in those areas. This directly impacts my ability to safely evacuate people. If there's a fire, I need as many people on board as I can get to try to evacuate folks. Having 3 and 4 and 5 deputies on a shift is ridiculous. We cannot, our public safety is starting to falter here. The severity and volume of the types of crimes which occur in our county are increasing constantly. And I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk about what we call in our industry Part 1 crimes. So Part 1 crimes, they're homicide, rapes, robberies, aggravated assaults, simple assaults, burglaries, larcenies, stolen vehicles, and arson. Now, these numbers we report out to DOJ and FBI every year. For the first 6 months of this year, we're up 23% in those crimes. That's not any of the other crimes, that's just those. If we continue down this path, if this continues through the end of the year, since 2018, our crime will have risen 43%, 43.9. We have the highest number of sexual registrants per capita of any of our surrounding counties. We have 1 for every 316 individuals in this community. Currently, my office is 3 months behind in providing checks on those individuals. When we go out and do a check, we ensure that they're actually living where they say they're living. We're ensuring that children are not in the home or other victims are not in that home. We're 3 months behind because I do not have the staff to do these types of I don't have the staff, and I can't keep up. I'm sorry, I lost my place here. Give me a second. So we're quickly falling behind in our ability to protect the public. And why is this? Well, to be quite honest, it's very, very difficult to hire individuals. In this day and age, people don't want to get into law enforcement. There's so much scrutiny from the state, from the public. There's a negative light on us, and people don't want to be in law enforcement. We had a young Caden here just Tuesday. For those of you that weren't here, Caden's just got promoted to Eagle Scout. I had the opportunity to go to his promotion. While I'm there, the next young man who's going to graduate next year comes up, and you can see it in his eyes. He likes seeing me in a uniform. He just lit up. He's very happy. And so start talking to him. His granddad, retired CHP officer, just loves law enforcement. Hey, you're going to go to college when you're done? Oh, absolutely. You're going to get into law enforcement when you're done with that? Well, it's really all I've ever wanted to do, but I'm not going to do it. Not in this day and age. We had another department head recently interview for another job, and while going over their background package, all these courses in administration of justice, the question was asked, how come you're not getting in law enforcement? Not in today's day and age, not going to do it. So when we're facing that, it is very, very difficult to recruit people. Let's couple that with the fact that we're the lowest paid agency in this part of the state. I cannot hire people. People are leaving our agency and are going to be leaving in droves. I cannot fill my allocated positions. Currently, I have 7 vacant positions. I now have 5 people leaving by December. I have 4 out hurt, and one of the individuals hurt probably is not going to come back. I have identified 1 person I can send to the academy in this next 6 months. So at the end of the 6 months, I'm going to be down 11 positions on patrol. I'm down 8 in the jail with 3 people hurt there. In the jail alone, we have mandated 881 shifts, 50 in patrol just over the past 12 months. So a little explanation on what happens when we mandate people. So if no one signs up and no one wants to do overtime, guess what? You're working. That's like 2.5, I haven't done the math, but what is it, 2.5 shifts per day in the jail? That's ridiculous. Our staff are being burned out. They're tired of living there. And I've been told there's anywhere from 5 to 7 people getting ready to leave that are looking for jobs elsewhere. They want to be home with their families. They want to have quality of life. So, with that, I will argue emphatically, we are broken and we need help. Your deputies in this community are professionals who care about serving this community, but they are highly, highly sought after. And I'm a little mad right now. Just prior to this meeting, a supervisor from our office said he's leaving. This is a well-trained individual, SWAT team member, a leader within our agency said he's leaving just moments ago, and I'm a little mad about it. So with that being said, Since 2016, we've had 22 people leave our agency for higher pay. It costs this office $76,000 to replace that individual. That includes the testing, the training, the FTO, the academy, my staff's time to train them. $76,000 every time somebody leaves. Had that happen 22 times since 2016. That's $1.6 million that we've wasted. It's a vicious cycle that we have to break. It was also confided in me today that we have 2 other people on patrol now looking for jobs elsewhere. I don't know what's going to happen there, but somebody did confide in me today that that's what they're doing. The simple fact is we got to fix this problem now, today, because we're dying on the vine here, and our public safety is too important. In the last 2 years as sheriff, I have focused 3 of my full-time employees to really focus on hiring. During that time, we've never lowered our standards for any reason. I refuse to do that because I believe that if we do, we're going to have problems down the road. I really believe that. But agency-wide, now this is not just talking about deputies, it's everybody, agency-wide. Over the last 2 years, we've hired 28 and we've lost 37. I'm -9 in 2 years. That is unsustainable, absolutely unsustainable. To hire 9 of the 11 patrol people that we're going to need, it will take over 19,000 staff hours. It will cost this county $692,748. For the jail staff, to hire 9 of them, it's going to cost me 12,735 hours and $369,000. You're talking over $1 million and a waste of, 15 years of staff time? At this rate, I will never be able to catch up. We're losing people faster than I can hire them. I have to be able to compete with other agencies. And I will tell you this, by no means do I expect that I have to compete with Modesto, Manteca, Tracy, Stanislaus, all these other counties that are outside. I have to be able to compete with Calaveras, Mariposa, Sonora Police Department, Angels Camp Police Department, and Oakdale Police Department. If I can't compete with those 5 agencies that recruit from our local kids, we are doomed, and I absolutely cannot do it. Mariposa is the highest paid of those 5 that I've just said. They have 5 people in the academy. I have 1. That should tell you something. I need to be able to select the best of the best deputies because our community deserves that, and I cannot do that. I've had people recently, laterals apply. They have so much stuff in their background. I'm turning down laterals because the only people we're attracting are the lowest of the low. I hate to say that, but it's true. But we have an opportunity to utilize this American Recovery Plan money. It's called out in item number 3 in the eligible items for essential workers. It's called out in item number 3 in your budget priorities for public safety. We have an opportunity here to use this money to stop the hemorrhaging. If we don't, we are in big, big trouble. I have to, at very least, be able to fill my allocated vacancies. Right now, I can't do that. We've been trying and trying and trying. We've done radio ads. We've just got a video coming out. We've advertised in every police magazine we can think of. We cannot hire individuals. I recognize that across all sectors of this county government, a lot of us are underpaid. I realize that. But I think, A, public safety should be our number 1 priority. And B, I have the added hurdle, if you will, to jump over, that people don't want to get into this business. And the people that do are so highly sought after, we are going to have to pay more. And that's just all the facts of it. I've met with all of you prior to this meeting, all you board members. We've discussed this issue in depth. I've appreciated your support and listening to me through all of this. I've come to you and presented you with a strategy that I think will allow this board an opportunity to invest in our sheriff's office so that I can maintain public safety. And that's what I'm asking here today. Would you have any questions of me?
Questions?
I have one.
Lay it on me.
I'm in full support of supporting our law enforcement. I'm a little worried about using total ARP funds for that because after 2 years, that money is gone. And I don't want to go through a cycle of having people leave again, all over again, or doing layoffs, which is even worse because it's unsustainable. So what plans do you have, assuming you can find and hire people with this money, what plans do you have to make it sustainable moving forward after the 2 years is over?
Well, my understanding, this is good through, for 3 years, first and foremost, and up to December 31st of 2026. So the money is actually there for a longer period of time. I know, and I think most of the community knows, that we have several projects in the works. Those projects may or may not happen. But if they do, they will bring additional tax revenue. We have to bridge the gap from now until then. And how we're going to do that is probably a bigger discussion. I'm happy to come before this board and before the public and present my ideas. I don't think that's what we're wanting to do here today. I think we want to hear from the public, but I'm certainly willing to do that and work with all of you. All of you have shown that you want to work this out and figure it out. But I can tell you, without a doubt, we are going to have a mass exodus. I've lived this as a deputy. I've lived it as a lieutenant. I've had to live it since I've been here at this agency, and I'm trying to prevent it again as sheriff. We have to do something. This money is a gift, and I think it needs to be utilized for public safety, bar nothing else. Public safety has to be our number one priority, and we have to use this money to bridge the gap, because if we don't, the quality of life in this community is going to go down. You talk about tourism is one of our number one tax resources. If we start seeing more graffiti, more vandalism, people aren't following the rules. People are parking in, up in Pinecrest, they're parking in other people's yards. People are not obeying the rules. People are not going to come here if it's not a nice place to recreate. That's a simple fact. I believe that public safety and a person's ability to feel safe in their community is the number one priority that we should have. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Sheriff, I appreciate your articulating out the problem in a manner that was understandable, because it is a big problem. I too have the similar concerns that Supervisor Half has. How do we continue funding, your deputies, your jail folks, after these, funds run out, if we choose to use them in this manner. So I appreciate, the extent of the issues that you got, and certainly it's something we need to look very closely at. So thank you.
Well, I will pose this to you all. I'm asking you to gamble here. I really am, being honest. I'm asking you to gamble on the fact that hopefully we'll get some more tax revenue, sales taxes will increase, and those things will increase to help pay for this later. But I can tell you for sure, if you do nothing, we have a problem, and it's going to drive your sales tax and TOT tax down. It certainly will. And I hate to say it, we've been through, and I think it was you, Supervisor, you've been through contracts in your fire career where you went, I think you said 5 years with no raises. Maybe that's what we have to do. But right now, we have to fix this problem. If we have to do concessions or anything else later, let's start preparing for that now. We've got 3 years to solve that problem. And I think we need to gamble on this now.
Yeah, Sheriff, thank you for the presentation. Because you put a lot of thought into this, and I really appreciate it. I mean, we took a long time to go through the numbers and everything. It's costing us a lot of money as a community in the county. I mean, not just in our safety. I think we're 28th percentile in, I think, violent crime for Tuolumne County in the state, and that's unacceptable. We have a lot of staff, as you mentioned, and I appreciate your empathy on that, that do great work and are underpaid. And this is an issue across many, many departments here. And I'll stand by saying that, the staff at Tuolumne County, we couldn't do what we do up here without them. They're fantastic. They probably do more work per person than any other county in the region. I think that's probably no better place exemplified than it is with the sheriff's department. I agree. To me, it sounds like a gamble. Sounds like a gamble worth taking. This is something that is an existential issue for this county that does affect our revenue. It does affect us in recruitment. It does cost us money to not solve this problem as well to solve it. I would gamble that we should try to address this as soon as we can. And if it comes that that gamble doesn't pay off, I have no doubt you will be here with another thoughtful request to this board. And I've found that in our budget discussions and everything, you have always kept in mind the challenging position we're also in to fund these priorities. And I do really, really appreciate that. So if that comes up in 2 or 3 years or whatever time, we'll meet that challenge too.
Let's not wait 2 or 3 years. Let's start having those conversations now on how we fix this
Absolutely.
problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it?
Yep.
All right. Thank you all for your time. And thank you all for coming.
Good afternoon, Dan Hawks, your Chief Probation Officer. First off, let me start by saying I completely concur with Sheriff Pooley. There is a very negative trend right now regarding law enforcement. We're seeing deputies leave, experienced deputies leave, having a harder and harder time recruiting and retaining staff. And I too am experiencing it within my department. But I also want to bring to light that we are a justice system, and you need to keep in light that probation, the district attorney's office, the animal control officers, we're all part of that system, and we need to be considered as well with that. In this past year, I've lost 3 juvenile correctional officers, 2 jail deputy positions. And I've lost, within the last month, I've lost 2 deputy probation officers that have taken positions outside of law enforcement. And in conversations with them, I know that the struggles and the difficulty of the job were part of the reasons they left. They could also make more money doing other things. So these are things we need to think about and consider. There also needs to be parity amongst public safety staff within the county. I'm not trying to complicate your lives, but if we only fund one part of that system, we're not really addressing the whole problem. My staff provides risk assessment information to all of the people that get booked in the county jail in order to help make wise release decisions. And we also supervise those people are released from the jail. We cannot lock everyone up. And we have to have probation officers that can supervise the sex offenders that are released and required to do treatment and programming. So I just want you to keep in mind that we need to be a part of that equation, and you need to also consider the whole justice system when you look at incentive pays and retention pays. And I certainly do support Sheriff Pooley. He is the most visible component and probably the most important component of our justice system. But also keep in mind that there are lots of components to that within this county. So I do request that you keep in mind the probation department with any sort of retention and recruitment pays that are considered. Second ask I have is that in the last few years, the occurrence of emergency power shutoffs have become a real nuisance. They've increased in frequency, and they completely disrupt our ability to do business in our main probation office building. We do have backup generators at the juvenile detention facility, but there are only a few extra additional workstations available to staff, and not enough for our whole department to be accommodated when we do have power shutoffs. I'd like the county to consider investing in backup generators to allow us to continue to do our essential functions. I think that is a small cost, but I think it would pay great dividends. I don't think that power shutoffs are going away anytime soon, and it would certainly be a great benefit to us. We also have difficulty accessing the secure justice networks that we need to work off with staff, so it's not easy for us to just reassign staff throughout the county to different buildings. Although we have done that when we've had multiple day power shutoffs. So that's the only other request I have for the board to consider, and I certainly hope you consider our needs as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Before you go, Dan, any questions for Dan?
Any questions? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to leave.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I am Kelly Schroeder, your Animal Control Director. I need an Agricultural Commissioner, Sealer of Weights and Measures, Air Pollution Control Officer. I wear many hats in this county. Today I'm here for animal control and agriculture and weights and measures. So within animal control, as has been mentioned, we're part of public safety, and we also have had staff leave, and part of it was for pay. It's hard to compete when we're paying our animal control officers less than they can make at Panda Express or Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's very difficult to ask somebody to go out and risk their lives on a rabies call or going up to an unknown house with people who could be violent and don't want them on their property, euthanize animals, that kind of thing. So just a little bit of consideration in that. But today I'm asking, we don't have laptops for our animal control officers. Only a couple of them have actual computers in the office. So it'd be very helpful if our officers could have laptops out in the field so that they can write up their calls when they're in the field and go on to their other situations that they need to handle. And we've discussed this before, but we need a shower for human decontamination. During COVID, it came up that we need a better area for our staff to clean themselves up if they need to. New humane cat cages for the cat wards. Ours are difficult to decontaminate. Our washer and dryer are quite old. And a barn to cover our livestock from the elements when we have to shelter them during evacuation events. So in total, animal control is requesting $54,400 from the American Rescue Plan funds for various equipment needs and facility needs. Any questions on animal control, and then I'll hop into ag and waste measures.
Could you run that one more time?
List.
So you're saying laptops?
So I need 6 laptops.
Okay.
IT quoted me $4,500 for the laptops. I'm estimating about $10,000 for a shower. We have the space, it just needs to be, and I believe it used to be maybe a shower. It used to be a shower, it just needs to be revamped and usable. It's not usable at the moment. Cat cages are about $17,000. We got a quote for that. When I looked up a washer and dryer, it was about $1,200 for a washer, $700 for a dryer. And we got a quote for a barn, it was $21,000. So that's our animal control request.
Any questions?
Thank you. Wanted to ask, we're talking laptops or are we talking car-mounted units?
Well, preferably the car-mounted units, if they could take them and then bring them into the office and use them at their desks. Because right now, in the animal control office, they're sharing a computer. Not everybody even has a computer at their desk to use.
But the quote was
So-
for something like this?
Yeah.
Okay. And the other one was related to cat cages. Is that the ones at animal control, or are we talking about cat trap cages?
No, those are the ones that when we have cats come in and we have to shelter them, those are outdated and we need to be able to more easily decontaminate them to control disease within our shelter. We don't have the ability or the funds to vaccinate animals as they come into our shelter, so we really have to focus on disease control and keep our facility as clean as possible to control disease within the facility.
Thank you.
Okay, then I'll move on to ag and weights and measures if that's okay with everyone. So within agriculture, we have a vehicle that's a 2003, so we're requesting a new vehicle for pest detection. Pest detection is where we go and place the insect traps throughout the county, and we look for insects of concern to agriculture within California. So it protects our agriculture, our forests here in Tuolumne County. And electric vehicle charging stations are becoming more and more popular, or, you know, the governor has a quota of how many vehicles that they want electric in the state. So we are charged as the Weights and Measures Department to go and test charging stations when people are charged for their use. So if they're a free charging station, we don't test those. But if someone is charged, just like at the gas pump, we go and test the gas pumps, it would be the same situation. We need to have the ability to go and test the electric charging stations to assure that people are being charged fairly and appropriately. And we have something called a probe well, which is how we test our electric meters. And ours is an old model, and the manufacturer's only repairing them if they have old parts. Ours is luckily currently working, but if it were not to work, it's an $8,000 piece of equipment that we would need to replace. So in total, the Ag and Weights and Measures Department is requesting $78,000 from the American Rescue Funds for various testing equipment and new vehicle. Any questions?
Yeah, Kelly, just one. On the charging stations where people are being charged, how many of those do we have in the county?
A handful that I know of that people are actually being charged for. We have, I think, more that are free. So, but there's not very, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but there's not very many. They do have a list. California keeps a list of where all electric charging stations are, and I keep an eye on that. But
Okay.
I hear that there's one going in up in Groveland, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Campbell, members of the board, Rebecca Espino, Health and Human Services Agency Director. Right before I came up here, my watch told me that my heartbeat was really high. I'm like, okay, I wonder why. So as we come before your board to present proposals and ideas for the American Rescue funding, the Health and Human Services Agency doesn't just think outside the box. We think about what we can do with the box, and that analogy will come to fruition in a little bit. As your board is aware, but for the benefit of the public, the Health and Human Services Agency pays almost $500,000 in lease payments each year for 2 buildings, while the first and second floor of the historic Tuolumne General Hospital lays empty and in ruin. Relocating the Public Health and the Social Services Department to the same campus as our sister Behavioral Health Department will create one campus that improves client access to safety net services by reducing transportation barriers, increases coordinated and integrated care for clients accessing services, reduces redundant costs, and share resources and funding streams to improve an entire infrastructure, reduces stigma associated with visiting specialized services such as child welfare, mental health, and public assistance programs by having one campus with a multitude of services. Integration and co-location better supports families and individuals and aligns with our no wrong door philosophy. One-stop shop to access 3 major resources, a complex system could truly support our mission to improve outcomes for children and families. What better way to build integration and infrastructure than under the same roof? Relocating to the Tuolumne General Campus provides closer access to other supportive services for our clients, such as mother-lode job training, ADCA, Centers for Nonviolent Communities, the downtown homeless shelter, and there's a low-cost grocery store nearby. Through collaboration with our county's GIS guru, we're able to determine more clients live within a 1-mile radius from the Tuolumne General Hospital campus than our existing Cedar Road location. This means we'll be closer to our clients. The Health and Human Services Agency has been exceptional stewards of taxpayer dollars by having a sound reputation for managing a multi-million-dollar budget. That being said, about 9 years ago, we received a cost estimate to renovate the Tuolumne General Campus, and that cost was over $7 million. But the cost estimate was for Cadillac-type renovations. We are not looking for Cadillac-type renovations. We are okay with a 1963 Chevy Impala with tricked out wheels and maybe some hydraulics for our elevator. The Social Services Department has already invested $200,000 in renovating part of the Tuolumne General Campus third floor. Our Public Health Department has scraped together $400,000 in grant funding. So you may be asking, Rebecca, what are you going to do with the savings when you no longer have lease payments? We're going to reinvest 50% or more back into our community by creating fidelity and prevention programs whose grant funding is due to expire this year. As an example, our Road to Resiliency program supports pregnant and parenting moms struggling with substance use. The program goal is to prevent babies from entering the foster care system. Last year, 7 women successfully completed the program, which means potentially 7 children averted the foster care system. The Behavioral Health Mobile Mental Health Triage Program is well known by our law enforcement partners and is respected and highly effective. We plan to also invest in our staff. The Health and Human Service Agency is not competitive, as you've heard a theme today, this evening, is not competitive in the labor market to attract clinicians, social workers, eligibility specialists, and public health nurses. Many of those classifications we have between a 50 to 60% vacancy. These classifications are direct service providers to our children, our elderly, and our disabled, but they are not the only employees who provide direct public service and who deserve compensation adjustments. In closing, I come before your board not in competition with my colleagues, but in support that we invest the American Rescue Plan funding in our county's most vulnerable and the staff who serve them. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Questions? I did have one. I just wanted to clarify real quick. So, how long? So the Tuolumne General Hospital has been vacant since about 2009, correct? And then, so you said the county, so taxpayers, are paying $500,000 a year in rent at the current facility. And so if we were able to move social services into the old Tuolumne General Hospital, we'd no longer need to pay that $500,000, and that $500,000 wouldn't just go back to the state, it could go to Tuolumne County Services. Okay, so that would, so depending on how much it cost to repurpose TGH, we could see that it could pay for itself, is what I'm getting at. Okay, just wanted to make sure I understood that correctly. Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry.
I do have a question, Rebecca. Thank you for your presentation. The Chevy Impala with the fancy wheels, how much do you figure that will cost? Estimate.
Drum roll, 2.5 million.
2.5 instead of 7.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to clarify something. I think what she's asking for is 2.5 million from the American Rescue Plan. That's not what the total cost of the remodel will be, just to clarify. We've estimated around 5 to 7, but remember we did that study over a decade ago.
Yeah.
And so the cost of doing that type of remodel significantly increased, even though she's looking at the, whatever car you're looking
Yeah.
at. Yes,
Still a
it's not
nice
car.
Yeah, that gets us elevator, that gets us plumbing, electrical, some basic things, and we could figure out how to pay for paint, and we'll just, along the way, we can fix up our place, but it doesn't need to be Cadillac from day one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so just a little note here. I understand that we're having some issues on the county website. Is that correct? So people can access Zoom to watch the meetings as well, and I'll look to Ms. Ryan to give us a run rundown on how to do that. Just Zoom.
In order for the public to join this meeting using Zoom specifically, they can go to https://zoom.us/j/98737385155, or you can call in at 1-669-900-9128 with webinar ID 98737385155.
And so you know, all of that information is available on the county's website. If you check the agenda, it's all there. The link is nice and easy. You just click on it and it takes you right to the Zoom link. Okay, let's continue.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. Justin Burtwistle, Treasurer Tax Collector, and I represent the Office of Revenue Recovery. And just quickly, interdepartmental requests, the only thing I would have would be a hand washing station or a sink somewhere in our break room or on that side of the building, so we're not washing our dishes and stuff in the main floor bathroom. But more importantly, just wanted to recommend we exercise caution in not spending too much too fast of this. The purpose of it is for recovery of the economy, health and safety. And as a treasurer, I get lots of opinions from economists, and they're saying, you know, right now many sectors are kind of amped up on a sugar high, and further stimulus, if it happens, is probably not going to be effective. And so we may not know yet what the best use of these funds are. And I'm not saying don't spend it, just spend it wisely.
Okay, any questions for? I do have one kind of, and I'm really glad you came up because that was sort of along the lines of what I've been curious about is it prudent? First of all, do we need to decide how to spend these funds right now within these next 3 meetings that we have scheduled, or next 2 meetings, 3 including this one? Or are you observing other counties, municipalities taking a more measured approach where some of the money is spent now, some is retained for the second year, and some is retained for the third year? Is there a model that you think would address our immediate systemic issues, but also set money aside for problems that we aren't now aware of, that I'm sure, given the way the world is these days, I'm sure we will be presented with issues in the next 2 years that aren't even on the radar.
I wish I had the answer. It's
So,
a very good
Yeah.
question.
Are you observing other counties taking?
Yes, we have 3 years, right? to spend.
Yeah. So mostly it seems like the sugar high where a lot of it's spent up front.
Yeah, just stay away from putting it into general stimulus. And then, spend it wisely.
Okay.
Supervisor Campbell.
Excellent advice.
Just so my colleagues across the state, there's many different types of plans going around. Those who are getting bigger allocations are taking more time to spend it. I mean, if you look at, say, our partners down in Stanislaus County, their allocation is significantly larger than ours. It's, we all talked about this, we also would caution, and we'll get into that later, about taking our time as we're putting this, going forward with this. But there is a wide variety of how people are using this and how quickly they're planning to spend it as well. So I'll defer to Deb. I know she's been watching this as well.
I get texts. Debbie Batista, County Clerk and Auditor Controller, Chief Financial Officer for the County of Tuolumne, Chief Financial Officer for TGH, that's still in business, FYI, for some things. It's all over the board, as Tracy's handing out to you. One of the things that your board agreed to do, or I told you we were gonna do, is we set up a fund just solely for this. So the money that's been sitting in there since May 19th is also earning interest, and you're gonna be able to use the interest for that. There is nothing that says, and I would highly recommend, and Justin is kind of backing that up, that you don't have to spend all $5 million that we received on May 19th in this budget that we do in August and September. You may want to look at the high priority, wait for seeing things that are going to happen. Things can come back to the board and you can reallocate more funds. You want to be cautious. You want to definitely use the money for good. But if we use all the money up right away, and some counties are, you're not going to have the opportunity to see what the future holds. There are other pieces of the American Rescue funding that can help some of our other departments. Our airport's supposed to get some money, our road's supposed to get some money. We have some PILT money coming in for 2 years. There's other pieces of it that we don't know what those numbers are and how they can help our departments. So, definitely address the dire needs of what you want to do. But I would highly recommend that when we put the final budget together, not all $5.3 million has been allocated, if that answers your question. Any questions?
Questions?
Hey, Dave, I got one. Is it gotten any less fuzzy on some of these funds that may be coming in these other areas? Because we know that that's out there, but it.
I think they're paying the most attention to the original allocations, and they're gonna wait until they get closer to October and the ending of the year to come with. There is no calculation, to my knowledge, for the PILT funds yet. So I have no idea, unless somebody else does, what we're going to get, how they're going to do it. I just know that they're not gonna allocate it on the same method that we got the PILT funds in June. And the same thing with the roads. We're not sure how they're going to allocate that. And the airport, I mean, there are just lots of little areas that they want to allocate some more funds to that will benefit us. And we just want to make sure we get the whole pie. I'm Italian, so I talk with my hands. The whole pie together before we make decisions. And if we spend it, then we can't go back.
Great, thank you.
Afternoon, Chief.
Good evening, Chairman Campbell, members of the board, and county staff. My name's Nick Cashy. I'm the Tuolumne County Fire Chief. I'll be honest with you, I was excited as we stood in line to present, and then after Sheriff Pooley, I realized maybe if he could present for fire, it may go better. So, in all seriousness, no, I think what we saw from the presentation was a genuine work passion and commitment to public service, and I share that same trait with the sheriff for fire. So when asked to compile a list of the needs for the fire department as it relates to the American Recovery Act, Chief Murphy and I came up with what we felt the needs were to sustain what we have. And I realized that in presenting to you, we've had the chance to communicate our strategic plan recently, numerous times, whether it be in the board chambers or offline individually. You're very much aware of the situation for County Fire Department and where we're at. Initially, when coming up with the list, the vision of where county fire needs to be was at the forefront of our mind, but quickly the reality, and we had to take a pragmatic approach to where could this go to support just sustaining what we have, because that's what we're budgeted for. And so with that, we came to a list that is comprised of things that will support our county-owned facility and bolster our fleet, such as emergency whole house generators for our facilities, investment into the Jamestown Fire Station. Supervisor Brandon, as you know, that's a contractor's trailer that was temporary 10 years ago that our folks are staying in 24/7, providing roughly 1,700 calls a year out of that station. And then in addition to that, the fleet needs. As you know, the aging fleet, Chief Murphy's done a great job of explaining that over several meetings, but whether it be our tactical water tenders, our Type 2 fire engines, our Type 6 squatter engines that we're looking for, replacement of utility vehicles. And with that, additionally, our IT needs, mobile equipment radios, and then miscellaneous tools and equipment. And essentially those requests that you'll see come through, those are to upgrade what we have and give our staff the tools to provide a better service to the county. And so those are the things that we were looking for when asked to compile the list of what to present to you. So I appreciate the opportunity to communicate that. understanding that we are a member of the county team, and I know each department has needs and services to the county, and hopefully we can plug in where we see fit.
Questions for our fire chief? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Chief, thank you for presenting. As you mentioned, I've seen the fire station a couple of times, and I mean, it's definitely a temporary situation that's unfortunately gone on for a very, very long time. In looking at an improvement to that situation, is there a defined plan yet, or is this going to be a recommendation to put some aside to see what we can kind of do in line with, I think, our CFO's recommendation?
I don't believe the funds in totality would support an entire replacement.
Right.
And however, any funds towards that would then get a plan going with CEO's offices, what the path's gonna be for upgrading the facility.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, thanks for your, is that going? Okay, there we go, sorry. Appreciate your presentation. Without going into specifics on dollar amounts, how many pieces of apparatus are you looking at?
Well, as many as you wanna support. So, with our aging fleet, we were budgeted for the water tender and the engine out of this most recent budget. So, along those lines, probably similarly, doubling the quantity, an additional one of each, and then looking at the Type 6 squatter engines to supplement as well. And so really it would come down to is the dollar figures and what the board would support to really answer you to how many. But at this point, with our aging fleet, any amount isn't appreciated.
The average age of the fleet?
Strategic plan speaking, I believe we're 25 years, 20 years on our average age of the fleet, and I apologize, that used to be fresh in my mind. It's old.
Very old.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Hello.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. Blossom Scottheim, representing Public Works. Public Works is a large department. We have 8 divisions and over 60 employees. In truth, we're kind of like a mini agency. We manage roads and fleet, engineering, business, solid waste, surveying, and GIS. Public Works has received very little COVID funding, such as the CARES Act relief to date. Because of our size, Public Works has a pretty diverse list of needs that we feel that they all align with the board's top priorities. And while we are not as visible as some of the other departments, we do maintain the infrastructure that everyone in the county uses, and that's our public road system. For roads and engineering, I know back in April we brought you a list of potential projects. We kind of looked back over that list. Our road superintendent and I went out and drove some roads. And for approximately $1.2 million, we could reconstruct Joaquin Gully Road. We could do maintenance overlays on portions of Merced Falls Road and Middle Camp Sugar Pine. These projects would be in addition to our already budgeted road projects, such as Willow Springs Drive and the Jamestown ATP project. Our solid waste department, another behind the scenes that everybody uses, is in dire need of safety improvements at our Big Oak Flat Groveland transfer station. We need to better protect the workers from the compactor and prevent additional thefts. We've been burglarized many times up there. The project's engineered design and plans are 100% complete, and the project is shovel-ready. The security enhancements may include a 10-foot perimeter fence and security cameras. The total improvements would be $250,000. Our airports, while they have a long list of needs, we focused on 2 top priorities, both of which are revenue generating. The first would be new shaded tie-down structures on our existing tie-down areas. It would be about $150,000 for between 8 and 10 of those structures. All of the county hangars are full, and we have a waiting list of about 30 people at the Columbia Airport. While the airport is in the process of planning for new hangars, provision of shaded tie-downs in the main parking ramp will go a long way in providing aircraft storage out of the sun, which can be very damaging to older and historic aircraft, especially those with canvas skin. It's anticipated the airports will be able to build 8 to 10 structures, as I said, and would charge a rental fee of $90 to $100 a month. In addition, it would be possible to utilize these structures for solar electric generation, either for the airport or leasing that to an outside party. Also, new hangars. As I said, we have over 30 people on the wait list. We would be at 100% occupancy at build-out. With a rental rate at $300 per month, the airport would be able to add 15 hangars for a total revenue of $54,000 a year. The total amount of $750,000 is based on a conservative estimate of $50,000 per hangar, and we would obviously try to value engineer that even lower. Our surveying department is requesting a large format multifunction printer scanner for approximately $24,000. The current 2 plotter copiers are each over 7 years old. The Ricoh often makes odd sounds at startup, and the Canon operates on Windows 7, which is no longer supported. We often have to hard reboot the computer to provide copies to our internal and external customers. This takes time away from staff and makes the customers wait. The scanner that we currently have is used for providing check prints in the map submittal process. This was put in place during COVID-19, and since reopening, we continue to use this streamlined process because the people like it. Additionally, the building department and land use and natural resources group send their customers down to us for printing and copying plans, which we obviously couldn't do if the printer fails. To better serve the public and internal customers, the new multifunction printer scanner will enable survey, GIS, and engineering to provide quality and timely products. Finally, Public Works is drowning in paper. The new scanner will enable us to digitize our large format plans and store the files electronically to free up office space. Our final department is GIS. GIS needs an ArcGIS software upgrade due to an upcoming software discontinuation and transition. ArcMap support will be discontinued, and any services published via ArcMap will stop working at the end of 2021. Currently, all of our services are published via ArcMap. The GIS department provides valuable services to virtually every other department in the county and the Transportation Council, both during regular hours and emergencies. I believe the cost of this and a little more detail will be covered in IT's presentation. We appreciate the opportunity to present these needs and are available to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation, Blossom. I'm always interested in anything that suggests saving funds, like on leases, or in the case of having revenue generating areas. I did miss the amount you said for those 8 to 10 shaded tie downs in the hangars. Could you?
We anticipate about $150,000.
And you said the on the hangars itself, about 54,000 a year would be saved?
That would be our revenue.
I mean, revenue
Yeah,
coming in,
yeah.
so. Yeah,
So,
I'm just
and
looking
then-
at the payback time here.
Yeah, so to build 15 of those hangars, that would take care of almost half of our wait list, would be about $750,000.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And one of the things that just kind of to be a spoiler alert, one of the things that I've come into this meeting looking for are ways to leverage these one-time funds into ongoing revenues. I think that's a part of being responsible. I think it's a way to plan for the future, because if we have these revenue streams coming in the future, it makes the struggles that we know will happen as economies go up and down, makes those struggles easier. And so with things like the redoing the airport, you know, it doesn't sound very sexy, but then, you know, if we're talking $100,000 a year for these shaded tie-down structures, what typically do we charge for people to rent those, and then same with the hangars? Like, what would be the turnaround time for the payoff?
So right now, the tie-down areas rent for about $54 and change a month. With the shaded structure, our airport director thinks we could charge between $90 and $100 per space. So we would be doubling our rent there. At 10 structures, you're at $5,000 a year immediately.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and then
'cause I-
with the additional possibility of the solar on top of those, we could add even more revenue.
Right, and that's one area where I know there's a huge demand from
Yes.
pilots for that airport, because it's a great spot. It's one of the few grass
Exactly.
strips that we have left in the state. And so, yeah. So looking at those kind of areas, I appreciate you bringing that up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. No other questions? Okay. No other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Quincy Yaley, Community Development Department Director. I will be very brief, mostly because Public Works told me they'd buy me lunch if I threw my support to their department. So just echoing their requests for GIS and printer copier needs on the third floor. I just also want to make sure the public understands that our department is grateful to this board for already having been provided funding both from the CARES Act and funding through the American Rescue Plan for code enforcement. So there's really not much on our list that hasn't been fulfilled by your board. We've provided that information to you, and should it become at the top of the list, we would be grateful for that. But I also just want to really draw attention to how all of our departments really work together, and that one of the biggest challenges we have in the development review process is how we're going to provide emergency services to our development projects. And these projects become further and further away from the core substations or the stations that our responders are at, and therefore it takes more time for a fire truck to respond to those services, and or like Sheriff Pooley said, they don't even have someone in that geographic area to respond to. So it actually will make, one of your priorities is economic development, and a way to really help economic development is to support emergency response and public services, not just for our emergency responders, but also through our partners that provide infrastructure to those development projects, TUD, GCSD. Those are some of the hurdles that we encounter in the development process when we're asking questions. Who will respond? How long will it take to get there? How will we evacuate? Will we rely on groundwater, or will we be able to provide public water? So I'm not asking for much except to lunch from Public Works, as well as any considerations or creativity that we can apply with these funds to support our public service agencies. So happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Questions? Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Roger, your IT director. Well, Nick stole my opening line, which was going to be after the sheriff. I had this long list, but after listening to the sheriff, I started crossing stuff off. I literally started crossing things off my list. And then after Granicus failed, I crossed off more stuff. So I am here, though, to ask for one thing, really, that's important, I think, to the entire county, but I'm also here to support some of the things that you've heard previously. The sheriff didn't mention online crime reporting, but I think it's a priority on his list. But it is something I think we can do fairly quick and fairly inexpensively. Also here to answer the question about the MDCs for animal control, that $4.5 or $4,500 covers the MDCs, all the hardware, the antennas, and then the installation. So it may seem like a lot, but it's a lot of equipment that goes into that. And I also, I did not get lunch. And I was given the task of providing more information about the ArcGIS upgrade, so I'm very disappointed. Our last upgrade was a little over $20,000. We anticipate, because we have to do a couple of other pieces with the professional services that goes along with this, is going to be probably closer to $30,000 to $35,000 for this upgrade. There are some things we can do to kind of push it back a couple of months, but we are really at a tight timeline that we were just made aware of in the last couple of weeks for multiple reasons. And aside from just looking at upgrading, they're also looking at changing their licensing model, so there's a cost associated with that too that we're trying to address. All right, so as far as my ask goes, the only thing I'm asking for the board to keep in consideration is security. And we've made a lot of strides in our security posture over the last few years, but there's a lot of things that we need to look at, not just protecting ourselves, but how we're going to recover when we are attacked. The communications that come from the agencies that I look to for support in this area are, don't prepare yourself don't prepare just to protect yourself. Prepare yourself for when it happens, because it's going to happen eventually. So disaster recovery, not just for cybersecurity, but disaster recovery for fire incidents or anything else that could cause us to have infrastructure damage to our technology infrastructure, is something that we need to address. And now I'm starting to think we have to do that for earthquakes. I've only been here for a few years, but I had never experienced an earthquake until the last 3 years. So I think that disaster recovery needs to be part of that initiative that we look at, and it is part of cybersecurity. It's part of just continuity of business that we need to continue on with. So that's all I have. And if you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you. Just curious, Roger, if IT department has a continuity of operations and disaster recovery plan?
We have one from I think it was 1999 or 2000. It was
Ooh.
probably prepared for Y2K, and it has not been updated. It is something that I want to do. It is an important initiative, and the technology obviously has grown and has become an essential part of every piece of business we have in the county, and it's not addressed in a business continuity or disaster recovery plan.
Have you priced that kind of planning? We'd probably need a consultant to do that, right? We don't have the...
We haven't priced it, but I can tell you from experience that it's not inexpensive, and we would need a consultant for it, for the amount of work that's involved in it. In my previous experience, we actually we only did a continuity plan for 3 departments, and we created a model for the rest of the departments. But the consultant interviewed every department, and it was well over $100,000 for just that piece of it. It did include plans for what those 3 major departments were going to do in case they needed to do something, or needed to address business continuity and disaster recovery. But it's even more important, I think, in our community, because not only are we dealing with more disasters, but we now have PSPSs that are making us struggle to figure out how we're going to continue business when we have no power at a lot of our facilities, or we've lost, power. When we lose power here, we're fortunate Comcast stays up, but most of the time we lose, AT&T goes down for a short period of time. So we lose internet at different times, and it just is more of a struggle, I think, in this county than what it was where I was before.
One other question, would that be an argument for redundant broadband in the area, would you say?
Redundant broadband for the county as a whole?
For the county or the region?
I absolutely think broadband is a struggle here in the county, and I had put, one of my previous requests was to look at how we can expand just access to county facilities. But with the broadband constraints that the county already has, a lot of the facilities that we were talking about can't get better connection than what they have today. So absolutely, I think broadband is important, not just for the county operations, but for the citizens. I'm new here. I've been here for 2.5 years now. But when I moved here, I started looking at houses, and someone told me, make sure you have an Xfinity box on your house. Because if you don't have an Xfinity box, you're not gonna have internet. And I was shocked to find out that I have employees in IT that don't have internet access at their home. And I'm like, well, how do you work in IT and not have internet access? And how do you have children who are teenagers and not have internet access? Because my kids would not have came. They would not have came if we didn't have internet access. I can tell you that right now. So definitely, I think broadband's an important issue for the entire county, and I know that Cole's taking the lead on a lot of those initiatives and doing a fabulous job, and I fully support the efforts that he's bringing forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Roger and I both have teenagers that are entering high school, so we know a lot about the need for internet in our households. Good evening, Board of Supervisors, Dory Beets, Tuolumne County Office of Emergency Services. Our mission is to coordinate the county government's role in response to disaster or critical event, whether it is a natural or man-made emergency. And our responsibility is to administer and direct day-to-day activities of the county's Office of Emergency Services in accordance with county policy and practices to provide 4 general aspects of emergency management. So the preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation. With respect to preparedness and response, and in support of our other public safety, obviously we work directly with law enforcement and fire, And we support a lot of those recommendations that have already been mentioned here today. But one of the areas that we would like to recommend is an upgrade and improvement to our Emergency Operations Center. Anyone that has been to our EOC at Stryker Court knows that one of the areas of needing improvement is the parking lot. During an event or a disaster, when we are having meetings with our partners or agency reps from incidents, we need to expand that parking lot. It is something that has been recorded as a need for several years, and we need to continue to push the need for that expansion. The other area in support of IT and also to help support our responders is we need to upgrade the AV and equipment in the EOC. We know what that cost is going to be. It's about $250,000. But in order for us to adequately provide support during an event, as an EOC is meant to be, we need to have those upgrades. And that will, again, not just support OES, but it will support law, fire, all of our public safety, including even those agencies or the departments that will be a part of the solution or the problem solving that does occur within an EOC during an event. The other area, obviously, we would love to have a dedicated OES vehicle. It is something we do not have. We are focusing a lot on outreach and education for our communities. We have been asked to present at a lot of area meetings and events, talking about FireWise and defensible space and our emergency alert notification. So having that dedicated vehicle with an OES is definitely needed. Now, with respect to mitigation, and remember, mitigation is things that we can do to lessen the impact of a disaster or an emergency. So it's usually the last area within emergency management that folks focus on. But one of the areas, and you've heard it mentioned already from multiple department heads, is we need to upgrade our communication system. There are definitely areas within Tuolumne County, from terrain and topography, that we have pockets of no cell service, no radio service, and we have a serious problem. Not only along Highway 108 in our Strawberry Pinecrest Basin area, we have first responders that cannot communicate with each other. We need to fix that, whether it's radio towers, repeaters, whatever we need to do. There are ideas that already exist, not only from Tuolumne County, but from our partners to help supplant that so that we can make sure our responders. The other area is to enable us in our emergency alert notification system. Again, it is vital that we are able to communicate not only with our residents, but our visitors prior to or during an event or a disaster. And those areas need some system upgrades. The sheriff and I and GIS, we've been working on some system upgrades. And again, I would totally support the need for GIS system upgrades so that we can have that program available to our in-the-field law enforcement and fire, so when they're having to make decisions specific to evacuation, they can do so very quickly and they can communicate that information back to us so we can get that back out to the public. It is imperative that we upgrade that GIS system. When we talk about broadband and other, again, we need to invest in that so that we can continue to communicate. We have an increasing number of residents and we have an increasing number of visitors that we need to be able to notify in a moment's notice, and that is definitely an area that we can continue to improve upon within Tuolumne County. It is already mentioned, one of the other areas of mitigation, we will have increasing PSPS events in Tuolumne County. We need to make sure that we have backup generation to all the critical infrastructure. We currently have 2 fire departments that do not have a backup generator. We need to fix that. We need to make sure all critical infrastructure, whether it's county-owned or within our community, has a backup generation so that we can sustain during power outages. The last area of mitigation that I would love to recommend, and this is really big, but those of you know, recently this week we did a presentation on the drought conditions. We need to invest in water storage. And part of that relates to the fire flow that our firefighters have available to them during an event or disaster. And there are mechanisms and systems and already a thought process from a lot of our stakeholders within the county on how we can do that. But we need to be prepared for the future because the drought is not going to go away. Those are our recommendations from OES, and happy to answer any questions.
No questions?
Awesome.
Okay, thank you very much.
Ready?
Hello.
Hey. So Maureen Frank, Capital Projects Director for you. And I thank you so much for your opportunity this evening to talk to you a little bit about our infrastructure as an organization in our community. And so before you today, what I'm handing out to you is kind of the larger capital projects that are high priority for us as a county organization and as a community. And you've heard from some of the department heads that have come before you, some of the items that you have on the list that I just handed out to you. And so I won't go into much detail on them, but I want to know that all of these items are so extremely important. What I've done for your consideration is break them up into 3 categories. The first one is the basic capital needs. The second one is looking at our employee work improvement needs, kind of their workstations and their office space. And the third one is deferred maintenance needs. And this list is by no means comprehensive at all. There are a lot of items. Our buildings are old. We need to invest in them. But these are what we as county staff consider as far as our highest priority. So with this, let me get started with the capital needs. The first project on the list is our community resiliency centers. As your board is well aware, the county is currently constructing 2 community resiliency centers, one in Groveland and the other one in Tuolumne. We've been very fortunate and lucky to give us grant money to pay for the construction of these facilities. There is one item that isn't being able to be paid for right now, and that's the audio-visual system. So as you know, these buildings were meant to not only provide services on a day-to-day basis, but also during emergency services. The audio-video system we have inside the budget, inside the bid that the buildings are now being constructed, the very basic infrastructure, but all of the auxiliary systems, the sound system, the monitors, and other items are not in there. And so there is, for those that you might not know, there is a large conference room that can seat over 200 people, and then there's a classroom. And so for community presentations or during emergency events, if we needed to have community meetings in there, for conferences, people who want to bring conferences into the county, and revenue generations. For training, I know both the superintendent of schools and Columbia College are partners in this project and want to come out and participate and provide services out in these facilities. The total cost for that one is 1.9 million. What I'm asking for is the request would be 1.5. I do believe that through very diligent work with the contractor that I'll be able to have some savings. I don't know how much, but that's why right down on your list is 1.5 million. The other next one down is also for the community resiliency centers. The grants will not pay for any furniture or equipment for the facility. The estimated cost for that is about $100,000. Staff has already submitted 2 applications. We weren't successful with that. There is a 3rd application that will be coming to your board on August 10th, asking for that through a grant being offered through PG&E. But just so you know, we want to make these buildings all we can be. We're looking at these buildings to really be a great tool for Dory and OES and first responders in regards to emergencies. And so it's vital that we be able to furnish them equipment in the way we need to. The next item on your capital needs list is a walkway for inmates and staff between the courts and the jail. We purposely made sure on the Law and Justice Center campus and working with the state of California that the courthouse and the jail were really close in proximity to one another. The only item that we weren't able to get into either one of those projects is a secure walkway between those two facilities, so we can have inmates and staff go between one and the other in a safe manner. And the design and install of that item is $624,500. For what Dory just spoke of is the next item, the EOC Stryker Court parking lot expansion. I take personal, I don't want to say pride in this, personal ownership of this. I was one of the I was the project manager on this project, and the minute that we opened up the facility, and the minute we had the first emergency, the disaster that was happening outside matched the disaster we were having in that parking lot. It doesn't, the facility is great. We can have a lot of people there, whether it's a training session or an emergency, but the parking lot doesn't match that. And so just to do the very basics of grading the rest of, portion of that rest of the property and graveling it will be about $75,000. Several of your department heads have mentioned this next item, and it's emergency generators. It's so important for the continuity of government and for continuing operations, and to be able to be there for our public is to have generators so that we can continue to maintain services during an event or when there's a power outage. We're estimating that around we would need around $300,000 to supply some of our other county departments and services with generators. The next item is a big one. I just needed to put it on here because it's a priority and it's something that your board is currently considering. It's the Law and Justice Center next step, and that is to go and look at the justice partners. So that would include your public defender, your district attorney, probation department, and your sheriff administration to move out to the Law and Justice Center site. In order for us to take that next step, we need to develop a schematic design. And in order to do that, that's $1.6 million. So that's just out there. The next item is the Sonora Main Library expansion. This last year, we moved recreation management and the whole department over to the Sonora Main Library. And although it's working quite well, I think it would be more effective and more efficient for both our customers and our staff if we can do a small addition to that building to accommodate both programs. In order to do that remodel, it's about $725,000. The next two items on your list are really companion items. Recently, your board approved the remodeling and repurposing plan for the fourth floor of this county administrative center, Tuolumne General Hospital, and you just heard from Rebecca Spino in regards to why we want to move the HSA departments over to TGH, and it also includes the two courthouses in the county. The county is looking at, once the state moves over to their new courthouses on the Law and Justice Center site, the two current courthouses then revert back to the county. So how do we look at repurposing them and making sure that they're living buildings that we can occupy and provide services out of it? So with that, we also want to look at then the expansion of that scope of work as a proposal for your board to consider. And with that, we would like to look at the rest of the administrative center, so that's floors 1 through 3. And we'd like to look at the A&F building and the recreation building. As in past presentations before your board, we've talked about the 2003 Space Needs Study. And in that, the goal was really twofold as we look forward in regards to our buildings and our capital projects. The first goal was to make downtown Sonora area really the financial and administrative hub of our governmental services. And the second goal was to create another campus or another site in which our criminal justice system would reside. And so as we start working on those goals, we really want to look at a proposal to increase the scope that we currently have in including those other buildings as far as downtown, and seeing how we can better utilize our facilities, make them more efficient, and more than anything, make them more customer friendly. It's really hard for our citizens to access our services right now, and so we really it's difficult, and sometimes I want to say impossible at times, and so we really want to look at that. So to increase the scope of work, it's probably going to be somewhere between 150 to 175,000 for that work. That companion piece, as far as repurposing and modeling of the courthouses, that's Washington and Yaney Street, the administrative centers, that's the fourth floor here, and TGH. Right now, we have architects starting to work with us on those facilities and start looking at how we can utilize this space. As far as what it's going to cost us to do that work, we don't know yet. As Rebecca and CAO Riggs said, we did have a plan back from 2003 when there was a programming document done at TGH. It wasn't quite the Cadillac. There were a lot of things I think we could have value engineered out of it to bring it down, but the cost in that building, even if we make it I can't remember the car model, but the basic model for that facility, it's the infrastructure.
I think it was a 66 Chevy or
Yeah,
somewhere
something like
in there.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to know that the HVAC systems and the boiler I think was from 1962 or 61. So those systems need to be upgraded and revitalized and brought up to, well, they're not even brought up. New systems need to be put into that facility. And that's going to be your major cost for that building, just so you know. And we don't know at that point in time what that cost is going to be. So those are your big capital project needs, besides the other ones that you heard from some of your department heads. The next category, again, is the employee improvement needs. Sorry about that. The biggest one you heard from several of your department heads, document management system. I can't tell you how much inefficient space we have because of file cabinets and file drawers, and it's just space that we could use for staff, or better space that we can use for making spaces for our customers to come in and see us or come in and talk to us. So we would like to recommend a document management system. We also, what I haven't heard yet, but I wanted, with that comes public-facing capabilities. What do I mean by that? That means that we would like to have a contract from a document management system that comes in, not only digitizes our files, our information, but also has the ability for the public to access those records, access that information. So really trying to increase our transparency with the public and make it easier for them to access those documents, whether it saves them a trip into one of our departments or offices and they can access it from home, or whether they come in and we can get that information for them a lot easier. The next one item off of that category is workplace environment improvements. And with that, it's ergonomic stations for our employees, or it's ergonomic chairs, or a lot of times what we see a lot is stand-up units, so at office space, so our employees can stand up. And this is really a huge, it sounds like a luxury. It is not. It's really goes to the heart of our risk management and taking care of our employees so we don't get claims in the future, and trying to address those items. Deferred maintenance needs, third category. Again, as Dory just mentioned, the first item, again, is the EOC Striker Court audiovisual system upgrade. That building is used extensively, whether it's for training from our first responders to an emergency event, or to training that the county puts on. It's also rented out, non-COVID times, to the public. And so really, it'd be great to have a facility in which all of those needs can use that equipment and it can be user-friendly. The building was completed in 2006, and we haven't upgraded the system since then. It needs to happen. Columbia Pool and the pool house repairs, it's about $1 million. There's partial funding right now for the project. And so in order to really do the whole project, including the pool and if you haven't seen it, the very dilapidated old pool house, they would need an additional $1 million. The other thing we want to do is really be conscientious, as we've been talking about the drought, and wanting to do our part as an organization. What we would like to recommend to your board is additional water conservation devices installed in more of our county facilities. So that's sinks and bathrooms. So for that, that's about $400,000. And the last item is the Armory building, which is out at the airport. It's something that it's a old building. It's neat if you've ever have been in it, but we need to replace the roof and we need to do some pest abatement to that, and it's about $500,000. So that's kind of, I know it's a long list, but we thank you for your consideration in any of these items, and I'm here to answer questions you have.
Thank you very much. Questions?
Okay, thank you.
I just had one question on, so the video system upgrade, actually, so Columbia Pool.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I thought last year and last budget, we talked about $500,000 that was actually authorized in the budget for that. Is this 1 million including that, or is this
Correct.
over
So
and
we have-
above what was already authorized?
So we have $500,000 in the budget today for that pool, but the entire project is estimated to be about 1.5 million. So this would be in addition to the 500,000 that's there already.
So to bring that pool up to a level where it can be used again is going to cost $1.5 million total.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you very much for letting me
Welcome,
jump in
Judge.
here. I'm obviously not technically a county department head. I'm here in my role as the presiding judge of the California Superior Court for the county of Tuolumne. But obviously, the court is impacted very much by what you decide to do on certain issues. And so if you wouldn't indulge me, I'd just take a couple minutes to describe a couple of situations that I think you ought to be aware of. It's not my position or role to advise you on how to solve the problem, but I think you ought to be aware of the problem. That's what I'm here to do. And I think that you're considering using funds. You might be able to give some funds to solve some of these issues. One of the things that I always tell jurors when we're picking juries is that one of the primary roles of government is to preserve liberty and protect liberty. And part of protecting liberty is protecting people from harm and also protecting their property. The whole goal of the criminal justice system is that people who commit crimes get punished. If you convict somebody of a crime, you go to all the trouble of spending the money to have law enforcement arrest people, investigate crimes, turn it over to the DA's office, prosecute crimes, go to a jury trial, convict somebody, and then you just let them loose. That's a tremendous waste of resources, not to mention the safety risks associated with letting people out who should be punished. Nobody can feel like justice is done if you're a victim of a crime and you find out that the person who committed that crime on you was convicted, sentenced, and then let out in 2 days. Nobody's feeling like they got justice. And so the current situation with the jail is impacting the perception of justice in this county. And it's been going on for a long time. Many of us, me included, were hopeful that by spending $20 million or so, whatever the exact number was, to get a new jail, we'd be able to actually keep prisoners in jail. It doesn't do any good to put bars on doors if you're just going to open those doors all the time. And that's what's happening. It's been happening for a long time. At the old jail, we got called as judges many times, day and night, weekends, with requests to authorize release of inmates. When the population gets to its maximum population, somebody gets to go home, and they get to go home early. It could be people who are waiting trial, but are dangerous. It could be people who have been convicted of a crime, but are going to be let out early before they've completed their sentence. If there's going to be a deterrent, there has to be punishment. And I know from my own experience, sentencing people to misdemeanors, so oftentimes we offer them the opportunity to do community service or work release in lieu of going to jail. It seems like any logical person would pick work release where they can just work on the weekends, or community service where they can work anytime, over jail. But you know what they pick? Jail. And you know why they pick jail? Because they know they're not staying. So you can do 30 days of work release, or you can be sentenced to 30 days in jail and spend 1 day there. It's kind of a no-brainer. And unfortunately, that word gets spread quickly among those who are frequent flyers at the courthouse. We had 140 inmate population at the old jail. And with 140, we're still letting people out. Not as often, but we're letting them out. At this point, I believe the current population of the jail is capped at 115. That's a 20% decrease after spending $20 million to build a jail. That seems like not a good use of funds. Again, it's not my role to tell you how to solve the problem, but I think it's important to be aware of it. When judges get called at night and on weekends and are asked to release people, we have two choices. We can let somebody out who's serving a sentence but hasn't completed their sentence, or we can let somebody out who's pretrial already determined to not be safe to let out. Those are our two choices. It's not a fun thing to make a decision to allow somebody to get out of jail early or on pretrial release, only to get called the next day to be told that that person committed domestic violence that day. It really bothers us that we have a situation where we're faced with making these decisions almost daily. We get calls from our transport people at the sheriff's office asking us whether they should go get somebody down in Stockton who was arrested for not showing up at trial or jail. And we have to decide, do we want to go pick them up? And if we bring them back, then who are we going to let out? That's really not a position that anybody should have to be in or want to be in. And that's the situation we face all the time. So we decide, well, you know what? They're being arrested in Stockton for failing to appear in court, but we're going to just take a chance and not bring them back. So we send another warrant out or we tell them to come on a certain day. Guess what? They don't come. And why don't they come? Because they know there's no consequences of not coming. We issue another arrest warrant, they get picked up in another county, and we go through this whole cycle again. So I just want you to know that this is a real issue. It's a real problem. And I know I've taken a lot of time, so let me wrap this up. I want to talk also about this issue that was raised about building a secured walkway for the inmates. We have right now a situation where we're going to open a new court in a few weeks, and we're going to have jail deputies loading inmates into vans, driving them around the transit center, and coming into the Sally Port. It's going to take them a long time to transport people. Every time they put people in and out of vans, it takes a lot of time. What a waste. It's a waste of time, of course, but it's also a waste of resources. The deputies are not free. They cost money, and we don't have enough of them apparently. Otherwise, we would have the jail more fully staffed. Why we don't and how we can fix that, that's up to you. Obviously, it's not my job and not my role. But I would ask you to at least consider what savings you might make by allowing that secured walkway and the safety involved in it as well. And I think that those issues need to be addressed, and if they can be addressed with some of this money, I hope they will be. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Yes, ma'am.
Judge Siebert? or-
Yes.
Okay. The first situation you brought up, our board is fully aware of. And I'm just wondering, with the state mandates for these releases, they were not our decisions. I'm just speaking to the public so they understand this. And the
What do you-
COVID,
I'm not sure what you mean by that, the state mandated.
the state has required a certain number of people that have been incarcerated to be released prematurely. And some of that is due to COVID, I understand. And so some of these populations where we used to have more inmates and now we have less is due to COVID, is my understanding. Is that not correct?
It's not my understanding. I've actually specifically requested a meeting with the sheriff to inquire about that, because we just have gotten to the point where we're just very frustrated with how many people we have to let out of jail. It's not the fact that we get bugged every night or all weekend long. That's, nobody wants that, but that's not the issue. The issue is these are hard decisions to make. We actually are one of 11 counties in the state of California who are part of a pilot program for pretrial release to increase the rate of releasing inmates in our county jails. A big portion of the population in all the jails in the United States are made up of people who are presumed innocent. But they're being held because they have a long history of failing to appear. We let them out, they don't come to court. We let them out, they don't come to court eventually. The only way you can ensure that they're going to come to court is if they are escorted with county jewelry around their wrists. And that's the case. And when I talked to the sheriff, and obviously he's here and he can speak for himself, he indicated to me that the problem of why we can't have a higher cap is staffing, a lack of jail deputies to handle the jail. So we have essentially half the jail built and empty. And in the meantime, we're letting everybody out the back door.
Okay, so there is a staffing issue.
I think that it is primarily a staffing issue. COVID is not the issue, is my understanding. Any other questions I could answer?
Yeah. No question. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
I just kind of wanted to touch a little bit on you mentioned 115 inmate cap.
115.
I know that that's not coming from the board or from admin. Because
I
I know
checked with the sheriff before I
okay,
came
because
up
we
here to make sure
budgeted
that's the number.
for considerably more than that. So there's money in the budget for at least 115.
It's my understanding that
I'm sorry,
there's money
150
in the
in the
budget,
jail.
but they're having a difficult time
Okay.
hiring sheriffs.
Okay.
And I'm told it's a pay issue in large part. Again, that's not my role to talk about money. I'm not here as an advocate for the sheriff's office or anyone else. I'm here as a person who says, if you can help us, you would do a great service to your constituents by giving them more protection and more liberty as a result.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thanks so much. Okay, so I think that was really useful. I think we heard a picture of what departments countywide have been facing, not just this year, but this has been going on for a very long time. We've had kind of compounding issues within our budget. And certainly, I think if you were keeping score with the costs of all the things that have been addressed today, it'd be a heck of a lot more than $10 million. So just to give you an idea of the issue that this board and this community has to come to some kind of agreement on that. So we had discussed earlier is we'll take a break now. We'll reconvene, and at that time, we'll listen to public comment and go through that. We'll read the public comment procedures, and I invite anyone here to come up to the podium. So we'll reconvene at 6:20. Thank you very much. All right, welcome back to this special meeting of the Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors. It's July 22nd. We're talking about the American Rescue Plan. I'm going to have our board clerk here, Heather Ryan, read the reread the the agenda item for the day, and then go through our public participation procedures. And then I didn't have to ask, you guys are so far ahead of me. I was going to invite folks from the room to line up against the wall to speak. I have a feeling that people are eager to discuss all the opportunities that are in front of us. But I'll turn it over to Ms. Ryan to read our agenda item and go through public participation.
4 p.m. appointment, presentation and discussion on the use of the funds provided to the county by the American Rescue Plan. Public participation procedures. In order to protect the health and safety of our Tuolumne County citizens, this board meeting is open to the public with modifications. During the board meeting, citizens physically present who wish to provide public comment will be invited to do so by the board chair. Citizens who are not present and wish to comment should be prepared to use our call-in line at 209-533-6581 to queue for verbal public comment. Options for public access, audio and video live streaming. The public will not have access for public comments via these media options. They are available for audio and visual only. Option number 1, the Tuolumne County website, www.tuolumnecounty.ca.gov/745/board-meetings. Option number 2 is access Tuolumne County at www.accesstuolumne.org and click Watch Live, or you can watch on Comcast Cable 8. Option number 3, Zoom webinar via your computer, https://zoom.us/j/98737385155, or you can call in at 669-900-9128 with webinar ID 98737385155. Important public notice. Under the Governor's Executive Order N2520 and Order N2920, members of the Board of Supervisors can participate by teleconference. Accessibility requirements. If you need SWIFT special assistance during the board meeting, please call 209-533-6581.
Thank you very much for that. And if you weren't able to catch all those backslashes and dots and .coms, all of the links to participating in the county in this meeting are available on the county website. So the way that we will do this is I'm going to allow the folks that are here in person to speak first, and then we'll go to the phones. I'm going to look to the back room. Do we have anyone that's called in that is waiting? Just one person? Okay. So we have a fair number of people that are here today. So if they want to stay on the line, they can. If they want to call back, they can as well. All right. So we have a 2-minute running time. Again, we do have a large number of people here today, and we want to give everyone an opportunity to speak. Go ahead and come up to the podium here, and your board is listening. And we very much appreciate you taking the time to be an active participant in this process. Good afternoon or evening.
Hello, my name is Sandra Asquith from Twainhart, California. I am here to speak on behalf of the Sheriff's Department. Just recently, President Biden and Congress allocated the American Rescue Plan. Part of the funds are to bolster law enforcement in the country. It is my understanding that Tuolumne County was allocated approximately $10.6 million of those funds to be delivered by the end of 2022. Do you have the tools you need, and I emphasize need, to do your job? The Tuolumne County Sheriff's Department is unable to do their job of getting recruits and retaining deputies because the salaries here in the county for these personnel are some of the lowest in rural counties and small towns of Northern California. The department is currently down approximately 20 positions to keep our county safe. Do you have the tools you need to do your job? Sheriff Pooley is not asking for what he wants, he is asking for what he needs, the tools to do his job. I am recommending you give Sheriff Pooley the tools he needs to do his job and keep Tuolumne County and the people safe. Again, I ask, do you have the tools you need to do your job? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just kind of on that note, I've talked to a number of folks here today. Can I get a show of hands for people that are here for a similar, to support a similar topic to Mrs. Asquith? So Keep your hands up. A fair number. Keep your hands up real quick. So I see about 25, 26 here in the room. Okay, thank you. Oh, no. Well, I said keep your hands up. So, yeah, I see another 6 or 8. So we're in the 30, 32 area. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So so thank you very much, everybody. You have the time to come up and speak on any item you'd like, but just to kind of show the board where people in the room here are at. So I just
My
wanted to
name is
illustrate
Jim
that.
Grinnell. A few years ago, I was president of the TUD board. What I would like to do is remind you that TUD is in some very serious negotiations with PG&E. They want to sell the water rights, and TUD needs, Tuolumne County, we need those water rights. Absolutely need those water rights. Fire and water and safety. Can you imagine if those water rights got purchased by town down in the valley and that type? Look at what our costs of water would be. Look at what the availability of water would be. We need to support that, and I hope the board, if you've got some money, work with TUD and help them get this accomplished. Thank you. Oh, excuse me. Any questions?
No questions.
I thought,
Or were there any questions?
I thought maybe
All right.
Dave was gonna like
Well-
it because I mentioned
well-
fire, and that's important.
We'll streamline the process. I trust my coworkers here to jump up and shout if they have any questions without me polling the board.
Yeah, greetings, Don Perkins, interim general manager for TUD, and I know all of you. Nice to see all these familiar faces, and I know you know all you need to know about TUD. And I feel absolutely silly thinking I'm going to come up here and ask for some money after what I heard from your staff, and it's well deserving, and I understand the position you're in. So, you mentioned cost avoidance. You didn't mention cost avoidance. You mentioned ways to leverage your money to make your money go further, and I commend you for that. I think TUD can offer ways for us to put together joint projects for cost avoidance down the road. I don't have a list off the top of my head, but just think about if you're going to expend some funds digging up the pavement in the city or anywhere in this county, and our facilities are also in there, there's a good chance we need to replace that facility, so we could go in together for cost avoidance purposes. But anyway, I appreciate the time. Great presentation, staff. It was nice to see everybody, and we'll work together and through committee and other ways to continue to work towards these co-equal goals and great projects. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Sean.
Good evening, Jeff Kearns, TUD Director, and I agree wholeheartedly with Don Perkins, and I'm so glad he's here because I also wanted to speak as a private citizen. My family and I own a business in downtown Sonora. We also own a couple more up the highway on the Highway 108 corridor. And as the sheriff said, crime's up 23% since January 1. That's a scary, scary number, and if it continues like he said, it's going to be 43%. County government should be prioritizing public safety. I know that seems like a statement that we should all get behind, but what bothers me is that it seems like every election cycle we have a sales tax initiative or a parcel tax initiative to save public safety. All right, that doesn't sound like a priority to me if we're having to vote on these kinds of things. Public safety, and especially law enforcement, has to be number one, because unfortunately with the rest of it, everything else is moot at that point. We've got to be safe. We've got to be in control of our own destinies here. And, you know, we live here for a reason. It's been a great place to live. I'm born and raised here like a lot of you, and I raised my kids here, and it's been wonderful. But we don't want Tuolumne County to become a crime and drug haven just because we didn't prioritize it properly. So I ask you to please fund the Sheriff Department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rhonda Bailey, and I'm here as a mother and a citizen as well. And this is my beautiful and amazing daughter, Ryan Bailey. She is 17 years old, and she has, since the time I think she knew she existed, wanted to be in law enforcement. She chose sheriff as her career. I'm very proud of her. She graduated at 16. She has the passion and the drive of nobody else I've ever seen before. I am very fearful. She has said no indication of her ever wanting to leave the county, but I know, as Sheriff Pulley has indicated, that there are others, and obviously he's having a hard time keeping people here because we don't have the pay scale. I think that's a sad situation. And based on the crime graphics that he explained, is a very scary situation. I just hope that you guys will seriously take into consideration what he presented to you. He's a very hard act to follow, obviously, but there's a lot of support, and obviously it's a very important situation. If we don't have safety, we're not going to get people into our community, and we're not going to build as a community. So I thank you, and I hope that you guys make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you. And
I'm Kathy Peacock, and I'm an elder that lives up on the high country, and I'm involved in the community in a variety of ways. I have a whole long speech written here, but it's said by Sheriff Pulley eloquently for everything and all the other people who have supported his viewpoints. I just ask you as the board, as the community, as staff, to consider the importance of the law enforcement. Think of what would happen if we did not have it. What's going to happen to our community in the future if law enforcement is not there or not able to be there? Law enforcement, fire, all respond to every one of us, whether we live here or not. But for in Tuolumne County, they are there without decision of, well, where do you live? How much money do you have? Who are you voting for? Any of that. I worry about their mindset. They're leaving the county for better and greener pastures in law enforcement. But I always go back to the concern I have of what if they weren't there? So that's just my plea to you and to the community to voice that concern as well. Thank you.
thank you. Hello.
Hi, my name is Dennis Spizak. I've lived in Tuolumne County for 36 years. I've been involved with the Sheriff's Community Service Unit for 10 years, 8 years on the boat patrol. I personally have over 3,500 hours volunteer. Our unit has hundreds and thousands of hours to help the Sheriff's Department do some of the jobs that take away from the deputies, so the deputies can do their job by going out in the streets and keeping us safe. One of the things that I think that kind of overlooked, back in the 90s, I worked for the county for 20 years. And back in the 90s, we had the same problem, not only in the sheriff's, but in all departments. We were training people, having them go out, get their certificates, and then leave the county. And it's cycled again. 30 years later, we're doing the same thing again. The sheriff needs to be fully funded. It has to be priority one. Safety of the public is your job. You have the funds, look at it and help him out, because he needs the staff to do the job. We're not getting any younger on this community service unit. We're not going to be here forever. So I urge you to help out and fully staff the sheriff and get our program back where it should be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Hello.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity. And what I want to say first of all is, when Sheriff Pulley first mentioned what the crime was here just in the past couple months, there was a loud in the room, me included. And I don't know if that was out of surprise or sadness or a little bit of both. I am a mother. I've been living in Tuolumne County since 1969. I birthed all 6 of my children here. Most of my 17 grandchildren were birthed here, and my great-granddaughter was birthed here. The rest I'm going to read because I get very emotional. I am a mother of a sheriff deputy. My son Shane had almost 17 years experience as a law enforcement officer when he was involved in 2 active shooters incidents. One was an ambush on the police department in Paso Robles, California. The other was in Aurora Grande, not 2 or 3 months later. He is now on leave after suffering head trauma while on duty. I know the reputation of the Central Coast is great and safe and desirable place to live and vacation. I also know all too well how much ugliness there is behind the curtains of beauty. And why am I saying this? Because Tuolumne County is also a great place to live. It's a great place to raise children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. It's a desirable place for vacationers. Yet there's a lot of ugliness that we don't see. Shootings, rapes of 12-year-olds. My own grandson, who was 12 years old when he was almost killed by his biological mother, if it weren't for the sheriffs, if it wasn't for law enforcement, he would not be here, and he would not be my grandson. So thank you, and I am in full support of funding whatever the sheriff's department needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like Pulley, that'll be a hard one to follow. My name is Mike McDonald. I'm a homeowner in Jamestown. My wife and I bought a home in 2015 to be closer to her parents, who have been here for years. I come to you as a 30-year vet of law enforcement. I'm still currently employed. And we come up here to visit and on holiday and used our house for a little while as an Airbnb. Unfortunately, in getting to know the deputies that were here and talking to them and learning a little bit more about this community that I want to participate in and be a part of, I learned how understaffed they've been for a long time. This is the lowest. In fact, one of their sergeants used to work with me on a gang task force where I'm from. But to see how understaffed they are is frightening. To see that you have 4 deputies on an average shift and you're covering roughly 2,300 miles. And you're looking at each deputy is servicing about 12,500 people apiece in this rural area. So I'm just concerned that you definitely need the money. You need to give that to Pulley. You need to get these deputies up here. And I would say that you even got to consider other places that are close by that people are willing to drive to, like Modesto, Turlock, all those places that are offering well over $100,000 for these deputies to start. They're going to be willing to drive down there. But this is a priority. I agree with everybody else here. And I really think that a lot of that money just needs to be allocated to taking care of these deputies and bringing their pay up to parity at least. So I thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brett Boone. Kathleen Boone and I started the Service Station restaurant in Jamestown in 2017. Law enforcement's been it's a huge piece of that puzzle down there. Pulley spoke about, or you guys are asking Pulley about, how is it sustainable after the 3 years go? Well, it's real simple. It's commerce. You need businesses. The people that come from the Bay Area, they're coming from the Bay Area and Groves because they don't want to be in all that stuff they're dealing with anymore. They're done with it. They want to come to safe. Everybody here needs something of the money, but if we don't have safety, we don't have anything. And I can speak for us as our restaurant. 2 days ago, we were broke into, right? And it's tax dollars, right? That's how everybody's paid, taxes. And without commerce, we can't do it. We need commerce, and we need the tourists. That's how that will pan out for that 3-year plan I think you were asking about, is more commerce, more tax dollars. And that's our job. That's what we put in, right? We do that hard work in those trenches to pay our taxes, and helps, encapsulate all these things that need to happen. The restaurant business isn't easy, and we do what we can do. I mean, we just do our part, and that's what we're doing. But it is huge for us. Without them, we can't do it. Obviously, we're in Jamestown, so people know what's going on down there. And unfortunately, with the homelessness and these transients that are running around there, it's scary for my staff, my wife, and then all our guests at the same time. It's needed. Out of everything that I've heard that's in here, I'm 23 years law enforcement, retired myself. we have to take care of that first, or else none of these other things even, we don't need them, because there's not gonna be the people here to do it. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Phil Herrero. My wife and I own a business in downtown Jamestown, not too far from where Brett was. First thing I want to say is we're all talking about the funding of law enforcement. But what we're also forgetting about right now is the fact that the Board of Supervisors, the public, we don't call each other if there's an emergency. All of us collectively, as residents of Tuolumne County, dial 911 and call the Sheriff's Department. We have to think about that as far as safety goes. We also have to think about their safety in the field. If they don't have backup, that's a very dangerous situation. We've seen the rise in crime. We've all seen it. It's here, it's through the nation, it's happening. The problem is so many issues going on. The judge, hit on one point. Prosecutions are down. People aren't going to jail like they used to be. Safety is tantamount to our survival in a small community like this. We also have to think about reputation. We're a huge revenue from tourism. With social media, reputation spreads like wildfire, no pun intended. We can't get a reputation like that of being an unsafe place because revenue is gone, business is gone, it's terrible. That's one thing we have to figure out. How do we have a balance with safety, reputation, and the general well-being of life? So remember that. We're not calling each other with an emergency. We're calling them. And we rely on them, not only just to be there for an emergency, but also pillars of our community. They're friends. They also spend money at our businesses. So we need that. We have to stay in business, and we need that reputation as a safe community. We can buck the trend. We don't have to be the status quo about what's going on in the rest of the country. We can be safe, so people still travel here. So thank you, board. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Hello, if you need to readjust the mic,
I do.
please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Carol Hallett, and I'm a resident of Twain Harte. I'm here representing myself, and my opinions are my own, not of any agency or organization that I might be involved with, okay? COVID affected Tuolumne County in a very interesting way. We had many people come up to our area and live through the pandemic up here in this beautiful county. 15 days to slow the spread sounded like a vacation to the people in the Bay Area, and so they came up to their cabins and enjoyed the 15 days that turned into 40, 60 a year. And companies, and all of that affected our businesses, our small businesses and restaurants. Companies decided to use technology to be able to keep their workforce engaged, video conferencing, which solidified the idea that they didn't have to live in the Bay Area or LA or San Francisco, Silicon Valley to do their work. They could live here. So we saw a boom in the housing market, and which was great, and we found lots of visitors that came here to Tuolumne County. But along with that was an onslaught of vandalism, and criminals realized that they didn't have to go far to be able to hit multiple homes and then leave the county and never get caught. So it's put a real damper on and overwhelming our law enforcement to be able to keep up with that. They were already overworked and underfunded and overtaxed, so this was just a hardship on them. So if you're wondering how to spend the COVID relief fund or whatever it's called, my opinion is, first and foremost, is safety. Without safety, everything else that we've been talking about means nothing. So we fund our sheriff, period. That's number one. If you're worried about and concerned about the second and third iteration of paying for that.
I have to stop you there, Carol. I'm
Why?
very sorry.
Why?
You have 2 minutes, and I was so engrossed with what you were saying that you squeezed 15 more seconds out of it.
Do I get in line again?
I think it's one per customer,
I'm
but
almost done.
thank you very much. We did get a lot of emails, so. And very sorry if I do cut you off. We do get emails and we all do read them, so.
I can see the time.
Welcome, thank you.
My name is Patricia Piccinini, and I live in Twain Harte. I am going to have to shorten some of the things because they've been spoken by other people about the few sheriffs that we have on duty and the rise of crime. But I also would like to remind everyone, the fires in Northern California over the last few years, where law enforcement was stretched to the limits, people came in from all over Northern California so they could burglarize and loot and rob because they knew they could get away with it. Because law enforcement was stretched trying to save people from burning. And if the word gets out, you only got 2 deputies in 2,200 square miles. Well, guess what? They're going to come up here from elsewhere also. And I have to tell you, as a senior citizen, if I am alone in my house and someone tries to break in, calling 911 isn't really going to help me because what's the response time? 20, 30 minutes? So I will do what I have to do to protect myself. And if that means the bad guy dies, oh well. But it is the board's responsibility as representing this county to make sure the citizens are safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Janice Kwiatkowski, and I am a director for GCSD. But I'm not here today to talk about GCSD. I'm here to talk about the Sheriff's Department. Does Tuolumne County have a plan for the growth of our economy? Of course we do. Is there a plan to service and protect the residents of the county? Excuse me. Is there a plan to protect and serve the residents of the county while that is happening? We live in a county that welcomes families, welcomes the travel industry, and welcomes economic growth. And I believe we're moving forward with this without the infrastructure in place to allow this growth. With the added influx of tourists in our neighborhoods where we live, we don't have the ability to call the front desk if the party gets noisy or moves into my backyard. With the 3 major projects in different phases going in along the 120 corridor in Groveland, we need the Sheriff's Department to be fully staffed as well as grow. As a resident of Groveland, this is what concerns me. Our Sheriff's Department is understaffed and underpaid. The response times are extreme. It takes 30 minutes to get to Groveland from here, and that's if you're not following the speed limit. It takes 40 minutes to get from here to Pinecrest. The county cannot ignore the most important needs of the communities. And setting priorities for where this money is spent is the hardest part of your jobs. Please make the right decision on how to spend this money. The board needs to protect all of us by supporting the agency that's here to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi. So my name is Oliver Imlock, and I am a Tuolumne County Sheriff's Deputy. I'm in my 20th year here, and I just wanted to kind of put a face behind what Sheriff Pooley had talked about. All these issues that he brought up are very real. These are things that I go through daily. The minimum staffing, as a lot of you may have heard, is 3 deputies and a supervisor. It is not nearly enough. We can't provide a fair amount of service with that. You know, if you have a property crime, we're lucky if we can get that report done that day, let alone actually investigate it for you. We're just moving on, call to call to call. The increase in violence is becoming extremely just scary. So when he brought up the 12-year-old with the butcher knife, that was my case. I was scared to death that day that I was going to have to do the unthinkable, which was protect other people with lethal force with someone with a weapon. Thank God that didn't happen. But these are the things that go through my mind as I'm responding to calls. I have been physically attacked twice in the last few months by people high on drugs, people that feel no pain. One in particular, we got into a fight in a creek bed. Our entire shift was there, and we had to call for more people just to get the guy into handcuffs. And luckily, that was day shift, where we had a school resource officer come. We had the detectives come, and probably not even uniform, I don't remember. But that's just the reality. And if that would have happened somewhere else, like in Groveland, with the one deputy who's there sometimes, that would have just gone, who knows how that could have gone. It would have been horrible. So I just have legitimate concerns about where we're headed. I mean, no matter what, it's going to get worse from where we are right now, which is horrible. And I was spoiled. I was, 20 years. It was way different anyway. I'm out of time. But hopefully I got my point across. Thank you.
And Deputy Inlock, thank you very much for coming up, and thank you for the work that you do. I don't want to pretend like I know what it's like, but I know it's a hard job. So thanks for showing up every day and doing it. Greetings.
Good evening. This is Deja Vu. I'm Dick Nutting. I was Tuolumne County Sheriff 1991 through 1998. I stood annually before this board, a different board, but with a lot of the same message. But in the 22 years that I've been away from the office, things have changed. The people we're dealing with are different than they were. We used to figure about 10% would pass a written exam. Now you're getting less than 1% that make it through the process that you might send to an academy. And an academy is 6 months long. And then you bring them back and you spend time in the field to teach them how to deal with the people in their community. Just raising the salaries to the average of the small departments is not going to help the problem you're facing in this county today. The problem is we need to move them forward. So we have to think, okay, what would be the string that we might pull to bring somebody from a Modesto Police Department where they're leaving Portland like crazy? What would it take to make them be a deputy in Tuolumne County? How can we use the experience that has already been gained? A hunk of that is salary. And this county has been behind on salaries as far as I can recall. It's time to take a look and be ready to move forward.
Thank you.
How you fund it in the future.
I have to cut you off there. I'm
Thank
very
you.
sorry.
Right.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello, good evening. My name is Lori Livingston. I'm the Executive Director of Tuolumne County Arts. And I'm here today to talk about recovery. Of course, we want economic recovery, but part of recovery is the process of healing. Healing is needed for our young people who have suffered through disruption and massive changes in their education, both socially and academically, and the arts are a way to help in this recovery. Healing is needed to reanimate our public spaces. Arts and cultural events like concerts, exhibitions, and festivals are social experiences, and people are seeking to interact with one another again. These experiences can help to heal the anxiety that we all feel through opportunities for connecting and participating together in social spaces, and most importantly, through the arts. Evaluations of art and music therapy gives us solid evidence of the positive impact that the arts can have on individual lives. Arts and cultural organizations like Tuolumne County Arts play a vital role in our community, and we are ready to assist with recovery from the pandemic in any number of ways. We all need your help from the ARP funding in shoring up our capacity to do the work that is necessary for us to move forward as a community. TCA has created a roadmap of how our organization with other community arts and cultural partners can help this healing and recovery process by working together. I hope you've been able to read our proposals, and I hope you see the necessity in utilizing our arts and cultural sector to do this important work of rebuilding for economic as well as emotional well-being. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello.
Good evening, Supervisors. My name is Larry Barsetti, and I live in Twain Harte. I'm a 32-year retired member of the San Francisco Police Department, so I have some small expertise in law enforcement. You know, we don't live in a police state here in the United States. We don't have a cop standing behind each one of us with a truncheon ready to hit us on the head if we don't follow the law or do something. No, what we do here is we live under the perception of security. Perception. You believe that if you do something wrong, that there'll be a consequence for it. You believe there's someone there who can enforce that consequence. And without that someone, there can be no perception of security. The word is getting out. The word is getting out to the valley and to other areas of this state where there are people who don't give a damn at all about you and your laws or anything else. All they care about is themselves. Without that perception of security in this county, with the perception that the sheriff can't possibly respond to whatever they do, bank robberies, rapes, murders, whatever, with 2 deputies, which is frankly, in my experience in law enforcement, impossible. We had 2 men in a car, and even them, they got beaten up and other problems with plenty of backup. They have none. It's inconceivable. But the perception is getting out that he can't do his job. Without that perception of security, you'll have anarchy in this county. Because if he can't do his job, we'll have to do it for him. And as Americans, we can do that. You know what I'm talking about. Do you really want that? I don't think so. I think we need him to do his job. We need a perception of security so that we can go on about our lives peaceably and the bad guys think of going somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Terry Northcutt. I'm a lifetime resident, 49-year employer, and over my years, I have watched this county go from 14,000 to as high as 58,000. And what I've also seen is a severe lack of ability on behalf of law enforcement to be able to keep up with the ever-changing face of crime and a criminal element. We went from having resident deputies in Pinecrest, Twain Harte, Groveland, to now barely having the ability to even service those areas. This is not acceptable. There are other things that can be done right now, which we can discuss as a sidebar. I don't know if the supervisors are aware of the fact we're here today, everybody looking for vehicles, generators, all this kind of stuff. You qualify under the government surplus program. We've had vehicles that come across our table with 47 miles on them. There's ability to capitalize on some of this, which I don't think you've touched on yet. There's also ways that we can discuss stabilizing the funding on the Sheriff's Department. There's other avenues that we can go to on that to help fully fund our law enforcement so they can pay a livable wage and they can get the equipment they need. Because to Supervisor Huff's question about, well, what if going out in the outbound years, I will guarantee you when that bad guy comes and kicks in your door, you're not going to defend yourself with a what if. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Matt Bloom, and I own Kennedy Meadows Resort, which is 57 miles from Sonora. I'm here to support the sheriff and everything he said in his talk. Kennedy's is about an hour and a half response time on a good day. And as of yet this summer, because of minimum staffing, I have yet to see a patrol deputy up there. 4th of July weekend, they weren't able to have a deputy up there because of minimum staffing. And that's all of Pinecrest, all the way up the highway. So that's a problem. And the other problem that I'm worried about is school resource officers. Last year, they were only able to staff one position. This year, it doesn't look like they might not be able to have any school resource officers. The priority in my family's budget is safety of our children first. So that needs to be the priority, safety of this community. So just give Sheriff Pooley what he needs and do what's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is James Langston, and I used to live in a little trailer out in Columbia on Italian Bar Road for 18 years, and I paid $180 a month rent. Then I moved to Vancouver, Washington, and I was up there for 15 years. It was back to reality on the rent, by the way, up there. So when been back here now for 2 years. I live in Mill Villa, Mobile Estates, and I moved in with a buddy of mine, and I pay $200 a month rent, and I'm trapped there. I can't get out because the rents are so high. There's no affordable housing. All these little shanty houses that used to be here are all gone now. The people didn't keep them up. So whatever you can do to support any kind of programs to bring some kind of affordable housing to Tuolumne County, I would definitely appreciate that. My second point is, on behalf of the library, I don't know if any of you have ever heard of ILIAD. It's called Interlibrary Loan Internet Accessible Database. So in Vancouver, Washington, they have a fairly new library up there, and they have an ILIAD program set up there. Well, this library here is so antiquated, they need to be brought up into the 21st century, and I would like this funding to go to the library to bring in an ILIAD program here at this library. You can order books from all over the world there, and it's invaluable to anybody who likes to do research. And I collect Depression glass and elegant glassware from the Depression era. And without that program, I have over 2,300 glasses, and I'm trying to open a glass museum. And I would have never been able to research all that glass without that ILIAD program set up. And so anyway, I would like this. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the ILIAD program. I got a piece of paper here if you'd like to see it at all to inform you about what it is. But would you like to?
Thanks. Yeah, grab it.
All right, thanks. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very
And
much.
2 minutes isn't long enough.
So I like that guy. Affordable housing. I'm Betsy Hurst, President of the Board of Realtors. I'm also Director for the State Board of Realtors, and I served 6 years on our Visitors Bureau Board these last 6 years. But what I came up to say was, what wasn't mentioned was that there was a 4-year-old that was missing 2 days ago. And if there weren't deputies to come and try and help find her, who knows what had happened. The neighborhood was helping, but we actually had some of the sheriff deputies come and help and found her, and they did find her. But that wasn't mentioned, and you don't realize what's going on around you when, you know, the guys could be somewhere else, maybe at the restaurant that got broken into. When we sell homes, people want to come here because we are a safe county. There are 300 plus realtors, and they work hard to promote our area and to show people that it's safe and they can come here. They also can check out the roads for you because we drive all over the place. We also need CAL FIRE because of the defensible space inspections that are coming up. We need that GIS app because I use that for finding out zoning and general plan. I have huge dogs, so please help animal control. We need, you guys know about my dogs, I know. We need broadband. I mean, we know that, and the people moving here need it also. Cell service, safety reasons, if we're driving somewhere and we need cell service. Water storage. Please help the local lakes possibly dredge so we could store more water. $1 million is what I think it's going to cost for Twain Harte to eventually dredge. And my daughter's an eligibility worker, so help Rebecca too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ed Pelfrey. I'm the superintendent of Sonora Union High School District. I live in Supervisor Brandon's district. And I understand it's difficult when you have one-time monies and you're looking particularly at salaries and benefits and things like that. And while bodies are very important, the people that we have right now working for the Sheriff's Department are exceptional. And I think it's really important as we look at how they interact with our entire community, but particularly students throughout the community, that they prevent crime and they make things better in this community just with their ability to communicate, which they do extremely well. And it's important that we keep them and that we use the funding when we can to keep them, because just replacing bodies later won't be the same thing. Particularly, many of these young men grew up in the county, and we've gotten to know them over a long period of time, and we have some of the finest men in the county who were able to still be here as our deputies. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jason Revord, local resident, been here all my life, 46 years. First and foremost, obviously, let's fund Sheriff Pooley. Let's make sure that happens. I mean, our safety that is number one. What I'm really here for, you guys know what I do. I go around, started a nonprofit organization, one pile at a time. We're picking up the trash. We're making our waterways clean. We can have all the affordable housing, but if we don't have clean waterways, we don't have it. I mean, we got to have clean waterways. We got to clean up after these homeless. I mean, unfortunately, some of them are in there because of certain positions they can't control. There's a lot of them that aren't. I frequent these. I see these firsthand. It hurts. It hurts. Not only do they don't have a place to call home like all the rest of us do, but they don't even have a place to put their garbage. We've got a couple people that have tried to fix this. They've tried, and they've done a really good job. We're here to pick up the trash. I'm not here to work on the homeless issue. I'm not here to be the sheriff's guy to go and report everything to him, but I'm here to clean up the waterways, clean up our area, make it pleasant for us to live in. If you guys can do something to help us out, we would really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Trisha Rayford. I'm the co-founder of One Pile at a Time. We love our community to the point that, as people have touched on here today, what brings us the revenue into this town is our visitors. And when they come up and they see the graffiti, they see all the trash, they see our waterways littered with garbage, it really detours people from wanting to come here. But I am gonna also go give officer or deputy sheriff his money, because we need that. I raised 6 kids here, and it terrifies me to know that my generation of my kids could be rushed out of here by ambulance because we don't have anybody to adequately give us the security that we need. So I appreciate your guys' support, not only for the sheriff, but also for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Mackenzie Anderson. I'm the third co-founder of One Pile at a Time. I don't think a lot of people realize what we actually find, especially in the waterways and stuff. We're finding needles, we're finding trash, there's refrigerators, there's so much that a lot of people aren't realizing we're actually having to deal with. So, on top of safety, that is my top priority in safety, is trying to keep our community and our waterways and our ground, and man, is it a beautiful and historic place. Why not keep it that way? And why not bring more people in who could very well help us? Why not? But thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is John Whited. I just wanted to point out that it's very difficult for us to understand what you have to go through. Some of us may have done that in our careers, but we're retired now, so we look at things differently. I think of comments about what do we do 3 years from now if we can't have funding, or if that's gone from, we use this. Well, if we don't do police and if we don't take care of safety, you're not going to have to worry about that. We don't need the capital projects. We don't need all the IT systems. We don't need a lot of the things that you worry about in your budgets unless you have safety first. Think of safety for your family, your loved ones. Does that register? It better, because that's what these people are talking about. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Good evening.
Hello.
I'm going to try to do this in 2 minutes. So I would like to see this money used to benefit the public at large and as many people as possible. So I would like to see a little more public outreach and education to improve the state of our community and decrease the tragedies that we have experienced. So I thank you, Supervisor Half, for raising the issue, because one-time unanticipated revenue should not be used to pay ongoing costs. So I don't believe in personal pay, no hero pay. I'm kind of surprised as a county, and I see a lot of people not wearing masks these days, so if the number of people counts out for me, we should be at a 90% vaccination rate, but we're not. So there is no county incentive pay for vaccination. I think that should be looked at. As I've explained to you before, I'm truly disgusted at what happened to the library staff last year. And I think whatever amount of COBRA they had to pay beyond their own personal contribution should be reimbursed by the county. I would like to see some education and outreach on mental health. There were businesses in Jamestown and Sonora, that were very interested in mental health first aid classes, and nothing was offered to them. A big topic for me is traffic violence. I would like to see a multi-agency public outreach and education, as well as some stings. And I have some things that don't cost money. I would like waste management to be invited to a Board of Supervisors meeting and receive a public flogging for their being jackholes and not being held accountable for their crappy service and not providing us with recycling and lying about it for several months. We also need to look at having, is that my time up? Sorry.
That's your time. I'm very sorry.
That's okay. I know how to get a hold of you.
Supervisor Goldenberg and I are working on the flogging. Okay, I don't see anybody else in the audience that's standing up to speak. We have at least one person that's waiting to speak on the phones. So while Christina Cunha is queuing that up, I'm going to have our board clerk read the phone number one more time, and we'll go ahead and let these very patient people on the phone have their time to speak.
For members of the public who would like to call in with verbal public comment, you can call 209-533-6581.
Okay, hello, you're on with the board, and good evening.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak. I'm Sally Rhodes, and my husband and I live on Phoenix Lake. And I'm here to ask you to consider American Rescue Plan funding for the Phoenix Lake Preservation and Restoration Project, which is incomplete at this time. This project began as a grassroots community effort in 2004 and grew to be a TUD project. Horizon Engineering outlined a multi-phase project in 2012 that would cost $12 million at that time. The pillars were increased water capacity, increased water quality, sediment mitigation, sediment removal, wildlife habitat restoration, fire mitigation, and public access and education. All of these pillars represent areas of interest to the American Rescue Plan. The Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors was one of 12 groups that formally endorsed this plan when it was released in 2012. Last summer, the first effort at implementing this plan began, and 170,000 cubic yards of sediment were removed from one part of the lake, and a sedimentation pond was developed. Horizon wanted 444,000 cubic yards, and as you can tell, this is only 40% completed at this time. Additional money is needed, and what's most important is the next step is a shovel-ready project. The original permits, which took years to obtain, have time left, but the clock is running, and it's important to get going as soon as we can. The overall value of this project has to do with water, drought, fire, every one of the major threats we face in California. And I hope that this wonderful project can start the next steps toward fulfillment. It's a project of a lifetime, and it's the only effort for stewardship of the water source for the county. Thank you.
Great timing, Sally. Thank you very much for those comments, and very much appreciate your patience. Do we have anyone else waiting to speak? Okay, we do. Welcome and good evening. You're on with the Board of Supervisors.
Hi, my name is Nan Fuller, and I live at Cedar Ridge. And I completely agree that some funding needs to be given to the Sheriff's Department, and public safety should be a number one concern. But I think the health of this county is not limited to just the Justice Department and crime. We're looking at a historic drought, the worst drought in 1,200 years. We're looking at fires like no one has seen before. And we're living at the urban wildland interface. And if we have a fire like hit Paradise here, and we have one exit, and it takes half an hour for the fire department to get here, we could lose thousands of lives and all of our homes. And that's a lot of public safety. So I hope you're looking at giving us adequate fire routes out, and you're helping people to keep their homes because we're losing our insurance. So there's a lot there for public safety. And we have a lot of homeless people who are unhoused. And that's people who don't just need to have better customer service when they walk into a county office. They need the basic necessities of life. So I agree that we need to support the sheriff, but let's have a little balance here and think about all safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening. You're on with the board.
Thank you, Ryan Campbell. Hello, this is Joe Opie. I'm a local citizen, and I would like to wonder why nobody has brought up the fact that this is COVID money for restoring our local economy. Why is this not being presented as something to help out small businesses that have been crushed over the last year because of the mandates put in place by our governor? I do agree that we have a problem with not having enough deputies on staff. I feel horrible about that, but that's one of the things about living up here in the sticks. You should be ready to defend yourself and prepared to do so. And as far as that goes, if we didn't have a governor who was letting criminals out of jail, we wouldn't have the crime rate going up. The fire is a problem. It has always been a problem. As a volunteer fireman for the county, I completely agree that, hey, if there's some way we could do some water stuff to help out with water storage through TUD or somewhere else, that would be great. But this money needs to go towards something that was directly affected by COVID. And that would be my request as a citizen. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Good evening. You're on with the board. I feel like a radio talk show host. Oh, and if you could mute your speakers, we're getting an echo here in the room.
Oh. Okay, is that better?
If you could mute your computer, then we shouldn't be getting the echo.
Okay. Mute my computer. That requires some technological knowledge.
I think we got it figured out. I can hear you loud and clear now. So
okay,
you have
great.
Welcome, and you have 2 minutes. We're going to go ahead and start the clock now. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Chris Barsanti, and I do agree with funding the sheriff. But in addition to that, you've heard a lot about that. So in addition to that, I think it's important to reduce for fire safety in those areas that you have control over. Of course, most of our land is federal land, but there are still some areas that are private properties or county properties that we could do some fuel reduction work in. In addition to that, I think it's important to, I know you did just give more money to Resiliency Village, but I do think it's important to address the homeless problem by perhaps housing more people in hotels, motels. It would certainly help the people, the one pile at a time people, from having to clean up all of the messes left by the homeless, different encampments. So those are just a couple of ideas. Also, I totally agree that funding the library is important, and so many people use the library that it's really a need of our citizens here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, do we have anyone else waiting on the phones? Okay, getting that shake of the head. All right, so I will close public comment at this time. Bring it back to the Board of Supervisors. Does anyone like to begin, or shall I? We're not making any decisions. If we have any final thoughts or observations, that would be what I'm looking for, not any direction to staff at this time. And just to remind folks that are here, we are going to be meeting again on August 3rd at 1:30 to provide that kind of direction. It allows us some time to process the ideas that we've had, to allow staff time to work on them, come up with potential proposals, and then we can give more defined direction at that time. And then again on August 13th, we'll be meeting to make a final decision on some of these expenditures if we choose to do so. So who wants to, any observations, or you want to start?
Following quite a few speakers, so a lot to follow with everybody that came up. I just want to say that I'm really happy that we packed this room, right? I ran on transparency. I wanted it to be a more collaborative relationship with the county, and it's so impressive to see so many people come out. We got a very thick packet here full of all the emails that we received to our Board of Supervisors email, and I really greatly appreciate that. We obviously, I think, heard loud and clear where a lot of the priorities are for the community, and I really appreciate hearing from everybody on that. Certainly moving forward, we're not, I think, defining where we're putting this money in this discussion here, but coming out of this, certainly public safety, I think, is something we have to address. We heard that a lot for a few of our public safety elements here. That's certainly something I'm taking away from this. It's something I've been having a lot of meetings with, I think, along with the rest of the board, and I'm very happy to hear that the community is on the same page with that. I also agree with a couple of the speakers. There weren't quite as many, but in trying to have some of this funding go to support direct relief to the community, we did have a lot of businesses that were impacted, nonprofits that were impacted. We did see a lot of garbage pile up, a lot of these other things. And in looking at these funds, this will not be a 100% going only to one cause. We're going to be trying to balance a lot of very difficult issues that, frankly, took many years to build up. We have an interesting position with this board. Everybody is in their first term here. But I think that's an opportunity to make a difference in some of these things that, when you hear about it, maybe it's been like this for 20 years. Maybe we can finally address that and start moving a better path. I just wanted to thank everybody for your patience, especially the folks on the phone who I hope did not wait for 2 hours on the line. Okay, thanks, Christina. Appreciate it. And thank you, everybody. Thanks again for coming out.
Hello, everyone. So excluding county staff, I counted that there was 30 people that spoke. And the majority of them spoke for the sheriff's office. That message was, very clear. And I'm well aware that there was many other people in the room that were also supportive that did not speak. So that sends a message as well. As many of you are aware, my background was with fire. I worked for CAL FIRE for 35 years. I'm big proponent of public safety. I worked with law enforcement extensively, and I support them. And we've got some challenges here on how to put this together and figure out how we can fix a problem that's pretty obvious. You know, and the problem's been growing over a period of time, unfortunately. As Supervisor Brandon said, we've got, you know, a younger board here, a little bit different thought processes, but, you know, we're very deliberative, and we want to see the county be on a good footing, you know, as well, because the county, financially wise, was not on a good footing for too long. So thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. Thanks.
So I'd like to thank the people that have come tonight, and I'd especially like to thank the people that have stayed tonight for the very end. Thank you. What we heard tonight was very sobering. Lots of expectations, comparatively very little money. I know 5.3 million times 2 years sounds like a lot of money, but if you add up all the requests and all the desires that were expressed today and tonight in this room, there's no way that this board can fulfill all of those expectations. And I equate this to the fact that our revenue does not and has not for decades matched the needs for the services for this county. This is a systemic problem because we don't get the revenue that we need to support all the services that we all have come to expect. So this conversation is going to continue way beyond the American Rescue Plan. I do want to circle back to my question to Sheriff Pooley. I think we've got to come up with a plan that meets his needs as far as attracting and keeping the sheriffs, the deputies in the office, but we've got to come up with a sustainable plan. I've been watching boards for a long time now because I was staff here in Tuolumne County since 2000. And one of the pitfalls I have seen is the short-sightedness in planning. And I've seen the cycles where lots of raises have been given and increased numbers in staffing, only to several years later have massive layoffs. I don't want to repeat that cycle. I want to find a plan that is sustainable and that takes care of a lot of the needs that we have heard expressed in this room tonight. And this is how thick my emails were. So there's plenty more that have expressed interest in weighing in on what we've talked about tonight. So yeah, that's it. I just want to recommend to the board that we take a long-range view in how we're going to manage these funds that we have. We've already been given the 5.3 this year. We'll be given another 5.3 next year, and that's it. So we've got to be responsible stewards of the public trust and your money. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you very much. I agree with everything that the supervisors have said up to this point, and particularly Supervisor Half, your comments about taking a long-range view I think are particularly important. And when I think about the role of a supervisor, what is our job? You know, our job is to be responsible with taxpayer money. I mean, full stop. There are lots of other things that we do. There are lots of other responsibilities. But we need to make sure that we have enough money coming in to pay for the things, pay for the money that's going out. That is the very basic role of a supervisor, and sometimes it requires you to make difficult decisions. I've been in county government for a little while. Before that, I was sitting in the audience with you, telling the Board of Supervisors the things that I wanted to see my government do. And that's the short way of saying how I ended up here, actually. But and I've also observed this cycle of boom and bust that we've experienced in this county. We overpromise and then we aren't able to fulfill those promises when times get bad, and we find that the booms are never quite as high as we need them to be, and the busts are a lot lower than we expect them to be. So we have an opportunity here, and I see that everyone in this room feels it, and I'm so grateful to have so much input on that. We have an opportunity to break that cycle and start fresh, start new. We're not going to fix all of the problems, obviously. There are you heard all of the problems that this county has, but we can make some positive impact. And this is a two-way street. It's not the board up here making these decisions in a vacuum. We have to hear from you, the public, if we're doing a good job, if we're maybe not doing a good job. I know that many of you aren't afraid to let us know when we're not doing a good job, and I really appreciate that. And so this is a perfect example of that sharing of information back and forth. And so I very much appreciate hearing all of the opinions in support of all the things that we've heard, many of them for law enforcement. And so that's not lost on anyone here. We're going to have to figure out what to do with this limited source of funding, how we can best leverage it to put us in a position where after everyone on this dais is gone, we can leave a legacy of a sound financial footing for this county that can lead to good things in the future. So I guess I'll go ahead and end the meeting there. Really, thank you very much for everyone being here. Thank you for everyone who called in. This is a great experience, and it's nice to have something inspiring happening in this county again after the year that we've had. So really welcome. Please keep coming back to board meetings. Please keep sharing your thoughts, and have a wonderful evening.